across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Well, what an absolute pleasure to be here, particularly as I was on yesterday, and I just want to thank those in power here at Talk for giving me even more notice of being on the show. Yes, I got fabulous 2 hours notice, but I'll always drop whatever I've got to do to come here and be entertained by you, because that's how it works here. It's a two-way street here. 7 till 10, and it's Johnny in for Samara and in for Kevin. I think that's how it works. 0344 499 1000, and friendly faces through the window that I've known in aggregate terms for 50 years or so. If you add the two together, Chucky and Mark. Yeah, it's nice. It's really what makes this place a special place here at Talk. Merry Christmas to you, by the way. And look, you know, there's a lot to talk about, isn't there? Because we're going to talk in just a moment about this commitment from the Greater Manchester Police and the Metropolitan Police. Sir Stephen Watson and Sir Mark Rowley came out with a joint statement and said they will crack down on those people using globalise the Intifada. They've now decided that that term does call for international violence against Jewish people. But it took a mass murder, didn't it, at the lighting of Hanukkah candles on the beach at Bondi to do that. And it's what Jewish people have been complaining about now for 2 years. I saw for myself, by the way, and I stayed there in the rain to cover it. I was walking home, and at the bottom of Regent's Park, which is in London, if you know London, there was a siege of squatters, and they put this massive banner on the front of the Diorama building, which is right at the entrance to this beautiful park. Globalise the Intifada, and 30 riot police turned up with those perspex barriers, you know, really thumping them. And they decided after a standoff to go in and sort them out. And they turned out to be basically like the young ones, these squatters. They were a bit overarmed, but it was the right thing to do. And by the way, it was in Sir Keir Starmer's constituency. And by the way, he decided to declare for Palestine after that, which is an example of globalising the Intifada, is it not? If you disagree, you can call me, of course. So in just a moment, we'll talk to Philip Keasley, the Senior Fellow of the New Culture Forum, about that crackdown. And by the way, the Leeds Jewish community complained on X today that it's all fine and dandy for London and Manchester to come out with these commitments to arresting these people for saying this potty-mouthed stuff. But there are communities in the rest of the country that are vulnerable. Leeds is one of them. There's a smallish Jewish community in Birmingham. There's one in Newcastle, in Cardiff, in Liverpool, and even parts of the southeast like Brighton and Hove, where these problems continue. And also we're going to talk about this thing which has really captured your imagination today, your attention, these misogyny stories coming around. Boys are to be sent on courses to tackle misogyny in schools. And I'll tell you in a moment what I think about that, because I've done my own anecdotal research. I have a daughter at school of a certain age, and she's talking about her relationship with boys in the class. And you might be surprised to hear about that. We'll talk about that in a moment. So Philip in a moment. Then we've got Mike Neville, who's a good egg, isn't he? The former Met Police detective. Again, we'll talk about the Palestine hunger strikers as well. They're going to die unless ministers act. And I'm not so sure. A lot of people support them, do they? 0344 499 1000. I think what we're going to do now, I've previewed enough. Let's go straight to our first guest and say good evening to the Senior Fellow of the New Culture Forum. It's Philip Keasley. Hello, Philip.
Hi, Johnny.
It's nice to have you on the show. Merry Christmas to you.
You too.
Listen, this idea that Greater Manchester Police and the Met Police have come together to make a joint statement about globalising the Intifada, it's one of a number of potty-mouthed chants that they're called pro-Palestinian, but really they're anti-Israel, anti-Semitic incidents, aren't they? This pro-business is a kind of fig leaf to cover kind of a multitude of sins, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like Zionism, anti-Zionism, I should say. It actually means anti-Semitism.
Yes.
So yeah, there's so much stuff going on right across the country. This has come. It's everybody's very pleased that this has happened, but this is 2 years too late. There have been hate marches every single week since October the 7th. There's been a staggering rise in anti-Semitism across the country. 1 in 5 people in this country hold anti-Semitic views. Just last week in Birmingham, the march for globalize the Intifada. Revolutionized the Intifada, the only solution was a banner that was at the front of the march. The only solution, what does that mean? Is that a solution to Jews? Is that a solution to Britain? Is that a solution to the West? We have this sectarian, violent rhetoric that is nothing, it has nothing to do with democracy, has nothing to do with the issues in Britain at the moment. This is Middle Eastern stuff, and it is absolutely rooted in Jew hate, and we should have done something about this such a long time
ago. And so
just to come to your point, I mean, you're absolutely right about places like Leeds, for example. Leeds has a big community of Jewish people.
Yeah.
And they are very frightened. I know, because I live there. So very frightened. And it isn't just synagogues, and it isn't just schools. It's even things like Jewish bakeries. There's a Jewish bakery in North Leeds that needs security, for God's sake.
Yeah.
That's how bad.
It's so upsetting. I know a primary school in North London where every time there is an international attack on Jewish people, they shut the road so as not to encourage anyone, to ram the front of the school. This kid's coming home, the parents there. The kids are aged between 4 and 11 years old. So that's the state of the country that we are living in. Now, the Met detained 2 people for racially aggravated public order offences after they allegedly shouted slogans involving calls for the Intifada at another rally. The youngest suspect is 17 years old. But also, I saw some video last night of the police standing by, because they've got a number of songs in the album, haven't they? And they've got that very nasty one, which I like to call the Tim Davie chant from Glastonbury, where he didn't switch him off, he just let Bob Vylan say it, which is death, death to the IDF. Are they arresting people for that one as well?
Well, this is it, isn't it? And the BBC have such a price to pay for this.
Yes, they do.
Actions and their lack of actions. And it wasn't so long ago that they were trying to defend the term Intifada. They were saying it was spiritual and not violent. This is spiritual Jew hate. It's not violent Jew hate. It's perfectly okay. So that's the kind of moral bankruptcy that we have in our national broadcaster. But it goes right across the board, Johnny. I mean, if you look at all of the institutions, particularly education, I have a 25-year background in higher education. I spent my career in universities. It is rife in universities. And anti-Semitism is a shape-shifting beast. It's not the old neo-Nazi National Front stuff from the 1970s. This is very sophisticated. This is theoretical. This is conceptual. This is thought through. In many ways, it's much more dangerous.
It is. And I just want to know can we turn back the clock? Because we have been infested by this hate, which has become institutional. It has become an unholy alliance between the hard left and the Islamists. At some point, the Islamists will turn on the hard left, because as we've seen in a microcosm of that future row, the relationship between Sultana and Corbyn, which to us observers of these things on a closer scale is absolutely hilarious. It's hilarious because Corbyn at his old age is realising that these guys that he's been supporting for 50 years aren't his mates.
Well, who'd have thought that Islamist fundamentalists wouldn't sit very comfortably with trans activists? Who'd have thought?
Who'd have thunk it, eh?
Who'd have thunk it? I mean, this is the only party to just kind of come out and say we are mad and it's great. So I think it's a broader issue, isn't it? I think, people always say that Jews are the canary in the mine, and they absolutely are. They come for Jews, and then they go anti-Semitism, and then they come for the rest of us. I think we need to really take apart our culture, which is our culture that hates Britain, hates the West, this self-loathing, suicidal empathy that we have. It starts with, taking control of the borders, accepting that, lots of undocumented males from cultures that I think we're going to talk about misogyny in a little while.
Yeah.
From cultures that are fundamentally, inherently misogynistic coming into the country and fundamentally anti-Western and anti-Semitic. So I think there needs to be an absolute root and bow change of our culture. And I suppose looking forward, the time for that real change will be the general election. But that's a long, long way off.
It's a long way away. Even the council elections seem to be a long way off as well. Now, what's all this malarkey that I think was very regrettable and passed through the courts, that anti-Zionism is some form of protected characteristic? Am I right in saying that? Is that the right choice of words, that you're allowed to be a theoretical Jew hater?
It's this kind of word game, isn't it?
Right.
That we have at the moment. It's playing with hate and redefining hate.
Yes.
Making hate acceptable, actually making hate virtuous. And I think part of anti-Semitism is, blaming the modern iteration of anti-Semitism. I see it time and time again online. It's blaming Jews for their own persecution, and so this framing anti-Zionism in that way and protecting it in that way is a way of saying, well, we're allowed to hate Jews because we're doing it in quite a clever way here, And it's not just Jews; it's Israel. It's Israel because even though we're holding Israel to a completely different set of standards to everybody else, even though we don't care about actual genocides that are going across, even though we are uttering this genocide libel about Israel, for example, yes, we still have a protected characteristic. Now, this is very, very worrying. And again, we need to sweep away all of it's not just the government. I think we've got such a deep problem with legislation, with the judiciary, but also with the blob, with the civil service, which are so entrenched in this ideology.
Yes, and it seems to be so very deep. I saw an interview with Lord Hermer the other day, and he said the progressive voice needs to be communicated more. And I thought that was the oddest quote, because his elite are in power. I mean, they have, if they want, and as they're rather showing, endless power to deal with the right. And they got into power and showed what they could do with Lucy Connolly to start with, and then there was such a pushback on that they've started to say different things. But still, there is this push. We'll talk about this misogyny thing, but it seems to me that this misogyny course is about dimming the headlights for being a boy or a man. Like being a boy or a man is the original sin, that you need to kind of rein it in, lad, your instincts as a male in this new world. And it's making people very unhappy. It's like outlawing men for being men.
Yeah, I think, well, first of all, just to get back to Richard Hermer, he was parachuted into power, wasn't he?
Because he was his mate from Barrett, from the inns of course.
A human rights lawyer. And what we're actually talking about when we're talking about progressive is reactionary, unprogressive politics. The Liberals are the most illiberal set of people. They want to put people in prison now for fruity, spicy tweets, or even just freedom of expression. So all of that stuff is just, as I said before, so complex and so difficult to unpack because it's so ingrained. And I think you're right to cite Richard Herman there as an absolute representation of everything I think there's bad about this country at the moment. In terms of the masculinity thing, it's been decades, hasn't it? Poisonous masculinity has been poisonous for decades. Men could do no right for decades, and it was not so long ago that feminists were championing trans rights, right, left, and centre, and then that all went kind of crazy and wrong, and they realized that was extremely misogynistic. But still, somehow men, heterosexual white men in particular, get the blame for everything. Now, I'm all for controlling access and actually banning access, of course, to pornography for young boys. And I think there needs to be, again, a deep conversation about relationships, the nature of relationships, the commodification of relationships, and the empty loneliness of pornography. I just feel I'm so glad that I don't have to deal with this, that I'm beyond the age of all of that stuff. Well, I mean, I wasn't brought up with it, I suppose.
No, exactly. I mean, I guess I don't know if we're at a similar age, maybe we are, but it was sort of slightly illicit Paul Raymond kind of magazines when we were teenagers, and now it's just absolutely everywhere. And the porn is of a completely different level of graphic to what I remember, the sort of cheeky pictures that you might see in Penthouse and whatever. And I can well imagine that if a young man who isn't very skilled or knowledgeable in the female department, it can ruin their insides. Yeah. It can create a woman-hating way, even actually self-hate, actually.
I think that's it, and you have these poor kids have no idea about the sex. They don't know what's going on. They have no idea to approach the other sex. Their idea of sexual relationships is voyeurism. But I don't think it's just pornography, and I don't think it's just poisonous masculinity. We can't blame all of this on 11-year-old Johnny in Barnsley watching an Andrew Tate video. Kemi Badenoch came out today, I think it was today or it might have been yesterday, and said, this is not just about this. Okay, it really isn't just about this. We have, as I said before, the best part of 1,000 people coming into this country every day from inherently misogynistic cultures, and if they really want to do something about this, then the government should have cracked down on the Pakistani heritage grooming gangs years ago. They should have actually had a national inquiry straight away. And what are this government doing about things like female genital mutilation, for example, a hideous cultural practice that is rife in this country, and nothing ever gets done about it. So it's okay to deal with misogyny that will get you brownie points because it's white little boys and they're the easiest target in the world. But when it comes to cultural sensitivities, this country will do nothing, and I think they're a disgrace because of that.
Yes, we have the wrong government in for this kind of action, don't we? Do you agree with that comment that I've just made? If you want to join in the conversation with myself, Jonny Gould, and Philip Keasley, please do so after this short break. We'll talk about misogyny with Georgina in London. Stay tuned.
I was sat in the tent and he was showing me through photos of his phone, scrolling through. This was barbaric, horrific stuff. Blokes going through walls in vehicles and then jumping out and shooting everyone. You know, his WhatsApp picture was him with a mask on, with a gun like that.
You're in a tent with this guy?
I'm in a tent with this guy, and actually he's just showing me this stuff. I'm just thinking, this is not the kind of bloke you want to be coming to the UK.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hey, warm welcome to your, is it Thursday evening? I feel like I work in a casino. I don't know whether it's daytime or nighttime or what time it is. I don't know whether to say good morning or good evening. I'm like David Frost. Hi, good evening, you're welcome. But anyway, here I am. I'm here for Samara. I'm here for Kevin. I'm here for you. Here at Talk 0344 499 1000. We've got Philip Keasley with us as well. And we're going to be joined on the line by Georgina in London, because teachers will be given training to spot and tackle misogyny in the classroom, while high-risk pupils could be sent on behavioural courses as part of the government's long-awaited strategy to halve violence against women and girls in the next decade. It's going to be rolled out in plans for schools in England. It's very, very troubling, this, isn't it, Georgina?
Yes, it is very troubling. Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening, Georgina.
Lovely to talk to you. I've got 4 sons and 1 beautiful daughter. My sons range from the age of 43 to 17, so I have quite a lot of experience with young men and boys. I mean, it seems to me that both the men and the boys in the UK are being targeted as main problems regarding bad behaviours towards women and girls. I agree that you do get a small minority that do have misogynistic tendencies, but these are learned behaviours from either their home life or from media platforms.
Yes.
We need to start championing our boys and our men, Johnny, to stop blaming them for everything. This is causing irreparable harm. They're starting to begin to feel worthless and have no self-belief. They feel as if they're not required in our society, and that's totally wrong.
You really hit the nail on the head with the issues here. I'm going to bring Philip back in here to respond to what Georgina says.
Yes, I couldn't agree more, Georgina. I think there's something really fundamental that we've lost, and that is the role of men in society. And in a way, that's traditional masculinity. We should be championing traditional masculinity, the idea of nurturing, the idea of protecting, the idea of going out and earning money, all of those things. Fatherhood.
Oh, you're so right. You're so right. Every word you say, my darling. I wish you had a loudspeaker and could go and shout it over the houses of Westminster. I really do.
Well, maybe we should do that, Georgina. You can drive me. I can't drive, actually. So there's me failing with traditional...
So that's a job there. Baby, you can ride his car, Georgina, as the Beatles once said.
Well, we'll go in my car. I will drive my own car. But, Johnny, honestly, parents have got a responsibility to teach their children traditional values and not leave it to outside institutions.
I hear you.
They're being brainwashed that masculinity is the enemy and not to be tolerated. We're encouraging men to show more of their feminine side.
Yes.
We no longer want our men to be strong, to be a shoulder we can cry on. This is wrong. I want all my boys to be masculine and to be strong and to think that they are going to be the head of a household and look after them and protect them. That's how they should be. And honestly, the way things are going, we're going to have weak, lily-livered boys running around who are afraid of their own shadow. And this is not right. You know, they're talking about wanting men to enlist in the army. You're not going to get that if these men are so weak. It's not going to happen. We need our men to be strong.
Yes, because men and women are different, and vive la différence. This is really very important. Now, I did my own research this afternoon in this, and I asked my girl, who is one of the older children in her primary school, about the relationship she has with the boy pupils in her class. Now, the boys are approaching puberty and the girls are starting to thin out. They're just before puberty here, but you can begin to see them becoming the start of being young men and young women. And I asked my little girl, how are the boys now? And they've become a bit more muscular, they've become a bit more fighty, but they're not bullying the girls because the girls are quite strong. Okay, she wafts them away, she says, if they say anything unkind, and actually it's boy on boy. I know that this is anecdotal, but it seems to me that maybe they've disappeared down a rabbit hole, this government, that they have these progressive ideas which may not reflect society itself.
Yeah, well, we are going to end up in a society where there is no differentiation between girls and boys. You know, they are not the same. They are not the same. Women are a lot weaker, no matter what they'd like to think.
Not emotionally. In which way? Are they weaker in every way? Not in every way.
Not in every
What are they
way,
stronger
no,
at?
because we are the ones who bear the children, and if men were the ones who bore the children, the human race would die out very quickly, let me tell you. But
Right, that's a bit sexist, isn't it?
Well, it is what it is, darling, and I'm not going to sit here and lie to you. At the end of the day, you know, we need the difference between men and women. We need that difference. We can't merge it all into one. You know, men have got to be stronger. They've got to be there for their families. This is the way I was brought up all the eons ago. You know, and women are supposed to be delicate little flowers who do what they do. They go out and work now, which back in my day, you stayed at home and you were the homemaker. That's how things were. But now women are going out and they've got their own careers and what have you, which is causing lots of problems because we're not getting the babies we used to because the careers are more important. But we really do need to get back these traditional values that we used to have, because from what I can see, Johnny, the life now is totally different and not for the greater good.
That's a very interesting point. Philip, what about return to the division of the sexes?
I think that's really important, and I think the idea of role models is really important. As I said before, fathers are really important. One of the interesting things is that we know, because research tells us, that women do not like weak men and they do not like effeminate men. So what's happening is a kind of vicious circle that makes men lonely and isolated. And we know that if anybody's going to commit suicide or be depressed or anxious, it tends to be men. Young men have a very high rate of suicide, especially young white men. So there are all sorts of problems that go along with really ill thought out progressive fads like we've had over the last 10, 20 years, the identity of politics. And this is about, it comes down to what you both actually said, which is both absolutely true. There is a difference between men and women. Men and women are different. And that is part of what makes that bond between them so special.
Absolutely.
I mean, I couldn't agree more. That is exactly how I feel. I mean, one of my sons is actually gay, and he got married to his partner. There's always room in my life for another son. And, you know, I mean, that just shows you, with my boys, I've got the strong sons, and I also have a gay son. But the thing is, you know, nowadays it seems to be pushing the boys more on the feminine side. You've got to be more feminine to get on in life. You've got to have these woke ideologies that, you know, there's no sort of mum and dad in relationships like there used to be anymore, because a lot of these are single parent families, or you've got same sex couples having children, but we've got to have this differentiation. Even with same-sex couples, you have the stronger partner and you have the one who is more feminine, even in single-sex couples. So we've got to get the balance right in every regard here, because it's permeating every aspect of home life. And the home life for a child is the most important thing, because that's the basis on which the structure of the rest of their life is formed, as far as I'm concerned.
Georgina, thank you very much for being so articulate and passionate in your discussion. A final word on this debate for now with you, Philip.
Yeah, I think we've got real change, haven't we? And part of this is our fault for all of the reasons that we've all articulated and I've articulated. This isn't happening in a vacuum, though. Our society is changing at a hell of a rate, and part of that change is demographic change. So we don't have a kind of monoculture or a society that we all kind of have similar views and similar ideas and a similar religion now. So this is the real challenge going forward.
Yes.
So we take that into consideration, but we also have to think about what makes it's a really simple thing, but it's a really important thing, what makes our children happy, and that is connection with each other and feeling wanted and feeling valued. And if we are constantly telling little boys that they are poisonous because of their masculinity, then that's awful.
It is awful. I mean, we are potentially wasting a real gift of life and being able to fulfill their lives as best they can. Philip Keasley, thank you very much indeed for your expertise and your contributions this first half hour. What an exciting start to the show. Philip is the Senior Fellow of the New Culture Forum. If you've got an opinion on anything which Georgina and Philip have said so far, join me 8722 on the old text. Tweet at talkTV and at Jonny Gould, and of course you can phone us on 0344 499 1000. You can text us, as Margaret in Birmingham has done. Hello Margaret. Hello Johnny. Hope my other texts have got through. They sure have. I heard you talk about Tony Butler, and indeed Tony Butler is a bit like our dear departed James Whale, one of the great originals of independent radio. Tony passed away about 3 or 4 years ago. He was an older man, and he was the first breakfast show presenter I worked with, and I did sport on his show. And he was like, "On your bike, son." Everyone in Birmingham knows Tony Butler of a certain age. And he was quite gruff, but he was very, very charming to me. And I was only 19, and he was a man, and he was a big broadcaster, but he was very welcoming. So we remember Tony Butler. And Margaret, thanks for raising his name. On your bike, son, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go on my bike, son, up the Villa, up the Albion, up the Blues. And before I get carted off and sent back to Birmingham, let's take a short break. I'll be back in a moment.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hey, a warm welcome to your Thursday evening. I'm Jonny Gould here. It's 24 minutes to 8. That's the last time check I'm going to give you outside of breakfast and drive time, because I was told never to do time checks outside of those two shows. So that's it. I've broken one of my old radio rules. Every good programme director told me that. No, Tony didn't do that because he always did time checks. And it's always, you know, it's not 8:31, for example. It's 29 minutes to 9. You've got to get it right. You can't just do a digital watch. You've got to do it like telling the time, like we were taught when we were 5 years old at primary school. Good, well, I digress, like Ronnie Corbett there, my producer, right? 0344 499 1000. Now, police chiefs are under pressure to follow two of Britain's biggest forces in cracking down on those who chant globalise the Intifada. So the two biggest coppers, I guess, in the country, just putting Birmingham to one side, Sir Mark Rowley and Sir Stephen Watson, the heads of the Met and the Greater Manchester Police, said yesterday that activists caught chanting the slogan would be facing arrest, and they were as good as their word, because hours later the Met detained two people for racially aggravated public order offences after they allegedly shouted slogans involving calls for Intifada at a rally in central London. The youngest suspect is a 17-year-old male. Chris Philp, the Shadow Home Secretary, said all forces must arrest every person calling for Intifada or jihad. And the Leeds Jewish community said, well, what about us? You know, we're an important city. We've got one of the biggest Jewish communities, but the copper in Leeds or West Yorkshire hasn't said anything so far. So I think this might be rolled out nationally. It should be, shouldn't it? Let's talk to one of our old friends here at Talk, who's a former Met Police detective, and I'm sure he will back this wholeheartedly, because I know the cut of Mike Neville's jib. Mike, welcome.
Yeah, welcome. You're absolutely right, Johnny.
Merry Christmas, mate.
But Merry Christmas. How many Jewish people have to die before they all change? We've seen this time and time again. These dreadful shouts, this Intifada thing. It really is people don't know what it means. It means like a sort of revolution by the Palestinians against the Israeli state.
It's like an uprising. It started in 1985 in Judea and Samaria. The first Intifada was in the mid-80s. Yeah. And basically it was an attack on the state of Israel because peace talks broke down. So every time Israel and the Palestinian Authority, or whoever represents the Palestinians at the time, try to negotiate peace, the Palestinians don't want the peace on offer. They want all of Israel, and then they start shooting at the IDF or Israel. So now the Iranian government have decided, because this is kind of who's backing this, really. Let's get down to the main part of this, the Qataris as well. Yeah. They're saying, well, why don't we just globalize it? Why don't we cause havoc across the West? And let's be a little bit indiscriminate. It's not just Jews, it's just the whole of the West. Let's destabilise all the Western nations where there is an Arab or Muslim diaspora. And that is what's happening.
Yeah, it's absolutely dreadful. And, it's shameful. I've said this time and time again that, all my family are soldiers, including me, and my grandfather were liberated Belsen concentration camp. And what an outrage he would feel if he thought that Jewish people were not allowed or felt afraid to go to London or anywhere else where they've been shouted at. We've had, Jewish people murdered in Manchester, now Bondi Beach. In Bondi today, there was 5 men detained, all the same kind of suspects who were intent on causing mayhem and death in the same area. And so it's right that the police chiefs do this. So Stephen Watson is a very common sense police officer. I've had my disputes with Mark Rowley, some of the ridiculous decisions he's made, but Steve Watson's a common sense officer, and you can only hope, as you say, that other chief constables will follow, that people will learn that these chants are evil. They need to be told this is a bad thing and you're going to be arrested. We saw how robust the Met were against the people who were supporting Palestine Action, and hence the 500 arrests, and now you've got this hunger strike issue going on. But we need to crack down on it. It's no good saying, we've got a wonderful multicultural society and diverse is our strength, when you've got one group attacking another. That's no good. We cannot have this. Our Jewish friends and colleagues must feel safe in this nation, and I back them 100%.
Well, we appreciate your support, and it just makes common sense, doesn't it, Mike? Because the thing about Starmer and Macron and Carney and Albanese are that these guys think in the same way. They lead their countries. When are they going to realise that these attacks on Jewish people are attacks on their own countries? These attacks are not going in Israel. They are going on in Britain and France and Canada and Australia. They are destabilising their countries. They're not immune to it. Just because it's an attack on Hanukkah lights at Bondi Beach, it's an attack on the culture and very fabric of the country. And Bondi Beach, which was kind of one of those, you know, paradise places that we all think about, like Miami Beach or, you know, Sunset Beach. You think of Bondi, yeah, tinnies and barbecues and blonde-haired, beautiful Olivia Newton-John characters. But now it's ruined, isn't it? It's ruined.
It is ruined. I'll tell you what really shocked me, and I said this the other day to Julia Hart, the brewer, that when I looked at the house that the two men lived in, the Ackham characters, the father who was shot by the police, and then the other son has been charged with 15 murders and 59 total offences. When I looked at the house they lived in, you know, it's like the Australian dream. It looked like neighbours. You know, they live in a lovely place. The country's welcomed them, and now how do they pay us back? But Albanese is in the same situation as Prime Minister of a left-wing Prime Minister in Australia. He's in the same position as Starmer here, that there are a lot of votes in this. There are some marginal constituencies where the Muslim vote really counts. And as a result of this, you have some kind of appeasement going on. And we cannot have this. There's a real threat in this country. And what we have, though, is we have the establishment constantly trying to tell us it doesn't exist. You have a prevent programme where only 13% of the referrals about Islamic terrorism, when 95% at least of attacks, terrorist attacks, are Islamic terrorism attacks. So it's a fantasy. I mean, I'm really pleased we've got Talk and other stations now where we can actually debate this, because for about 2-3 decades, the public were gaslit and told that these issues didn't exist and we should celebrate diversity. And whenever these attacks occur, we say poems or some nonsense and we hope it'll all go away. And it's not going away.
No, it's not.
And the problem is, you say it's all of us, it is, but the Jewish community are taking the brunt of this.
Yes, I know that, but I'm saying is, but it's happening in
I agree.
our
It's all
countries, you know.
But it's the Jewish people who are burying the bodies, and it isn't good enough.
No, it isn't. And Mike, just one final thought for you. Dr. Alan Mendoza said to me the other day that at the next election, be it at local level or at national level, there will be sectarian votes. There will be parties which appeal to dominant demographics in certain areas. We already saw it, didn't we, where John Ashworth was voted out. We already saw it where Jess Phillips just about survived in her constituency, Wes Streeting as well up in Ilford in northeast London. And so when the Labour Party believe that they're held hostage to the support from the Muslim community, they're going to be in for a shock because of this appeasement, because actually the votes will flood away and head for not just the Greens, but also for these new independents and these Gaza parties and these Islamic parties. Labour will be emasculated, for want of a better word, and that appeasement will be shown not to have worked.
Yeah, I'm with you. I absolutely agree. You've got this real, what they call a red-green alliance, haven't you, where you've got the sort of communists like Corbyn joining in with these green Gaza supporting MPs. It's an absolute ridiculous situation. But you alluded to at the start, the Qataris, the amount of money that they're pouring into like education and things in this country, influencing young minds. So you've got some of the best young minds in this country who are now supporting Hamas. It is an absolute outrage, and somehow we need to cut off that funding. We don't want that poisoned money entering this nation and causing even more wicked actions. It just needs to be stopped. And our establishment need to wake up rather than keep trying to deny what's happening.
Mike, it's very, very good, very refreshing to have you on our show here at Talk. Mike Neville, thank you, our former Met Police detective guest right here at Talk. If you'd like to contribute to what Mike has just said, please text 03444991000. You know, when you phone that number, you can do it on a WhatsApp, can't you? You can leave like a voice note as well. So if you don't want to come up and talk to me, you can at least play a thing on your voice note. Just put it up to your speaker, your iPhone, or your whatever it is, your Nokia house brick, and leave me a message. And also 87222 on the old texts as well. And tweet or text us at talkTV on X and at Jonny Gould. Roger from Hounslow was the first to tweet or text me earlier on, and he's responding to what Alex said. Alex gave me a big up, and then, like a tabloid journalist, she knocked me back. She said that John is here because we needed to scrape the barrel. It's a delightful surprise to have you sitting there tonight. Roger, Hounslow, it is delightful to have you listening. Will you stay tuned to Talk? I hope so. See you in a bit.
I was sat in the tent and he was showing me through photos of his phone, scrolling through. This was barbaric, horrific stuff. Blokes going through walls in vehicles and then jumping out and shooting everyone. You know, his WhatsApp picture was him with a mask on, with a gun like that.
You're in a tent with this guy.
I'm in a tent with this guy, and actually he's just showing me this stuff. I'm just thinking, this is not the kind of bloke you want to be coming to the UK.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Oh, a very good evening. I'm Jonny, and I'm here in the chair until 10 o'clock. Then Andre and Ash are along with their usual mayhem and laughter as we head towards a festive weekend, or at least the week leading up to it. Boys to be sent on courses to tackle misogyny in schools. And now I'm going to quote the Prime Minister here to explain what this is all about. Every parent should be able to trust that their daughter is safe at school, online and in her relationships, but too often toxic. And that is a real bell ringer, isn't it? Toxic ideas, like that blokes are toxic somehow. Toxic ideas are taking hold early and going unchallenged. Basically, he's one of those guys who's trying to outlaw or quell men at the expense of women. And Georgina in London, if you heard the show a little bit earlier, talked with such passion, and she's from another age, but it might be that what she believes in terms of the roles of the sexes, that men are men and women are women, is actually where the society might win best after this period of great progressive engineering in our society. The government is stepping in sooner. It's backing teachers, it's calling out misogyny and intervening when warning signs appear to stop harm before it starts, because teachers will be giving training to spot and tackle misogyny in classrooms, while high-risk pupils, I mean, how do you define a high-risk pupil, huh? They'll be sent on behavioural courses as part of the government's long-awaited strategy to halve violence against women and girls in the next decade. And they've even come up with an initials for this, VAWG, VORG. VORG is violence against women and men. Should we talk against women and girls, I should say, not women and men? TV psychologist Emma Kenny is with us now. Emma, a very good evening to you. How shocked are you at this progressive engineering of our society? It's a threat, isn't it?
I mean, I'm not surprised, because Keir Starmer thought adolescence was the be-all and end-all of how to get it out there that there were these problems in our society, even though it wasn't reflective whatsoever of what we see where radicalisation is concerned. And I'm not saying this from an uneducated perspective. I've written a book on cults, for example, so I come from a really skilled and learned area of this. I think what we are doing at the moment is we are making young men feel hopeless, feel devalued, feel scrutinised on every level. We've spent at least 15 years doing that, to the point where I don't believe that young men understand what their role is any longer. And now we're going to put them into courses where they're told to feel even worse about themselves. That, to me, is upside down and back to front regarding what we should be doing, which is helping young men gain confidence, feel skilled, and feel like they have an active part to play in our community and our lives as young men per se.
And as I say on this, I mean, is there any merit to any of this? Could it be actually extended outwards for women to know a bit more about men? It's all lopsided, it's all one-sided. Is there any merit in some of the arguments here within it that you see as positive? Let's try and unpack this in a way that's not biased like they're biased. Is there anything that's of merit within these proposals?
I think the problem you've got within this particular proposal is very negative. Yeah. It's assuming misogyny exists within young men.
Yes.
And it's assuming that's something that can fester and become deeply problematic for our society.
Like the original sin, like men are the original sin.
Exactly. Exactly. But the reality is that when you have a mental health crisis, when you have young people growing up being told that they are not good enough, when you have a literal platform within the government who basically blame anyone who feels that they're unhappy and might be, for example, a white working class lad, that you're a far-right bigot. These are messages that have been literally cascading down for a long period of time now, to the point where young men are feeling silenced and stifled. Now, when you feel silenced and stifled, feelings fester, and sometimes that can come out when you haven't been educated in how to manage your feelings. And believe me, I used to work on crime projects, so I worked in crime prevention projects 2 decades ago, and I work with the kids that don't get to school because they've been thrown out of primary school, and many of those kids are the kids that they'll want to deal with. They'll never get on those courses because they've already been completely ostracised and alienated.
Oh, they're dangerous. This is dangerous. It's not their fault. But they've like kind of fallen off the wagon, so to speak.
All of them. They've vanished. They've just disappeared.
And what happens to them? They just sort of congregate in playgrounds and smoke? What would happen to these poor kids?
Back in the day, that was exactly what happened, until people like me would go and gather them up and bring them in, and it was wonderful, the changes that we had. I mean, there was no education. I didn't base it in that. It was about socialization and connection with authority in a positive way, because a lot of them don't have those feelings. I think young men, and if you speak to young men, and I see this thing about the manosphere, I see the conversations about Andrew Tate and Jess Phillips saying, oh, this guy's the worst person in the world. The problem that you have there is, first of all, you're going to turn a lot of guys to Andrew Tate by saying that, because a lot of people don't with like Jess Phillips or the Labour government. Secondly, listen, you can pick apart Andrew Tate as much as you wish to, but you have to see the good with the bad, like it or otherwise. So if he's talking about responsibility, if he's talking about roles, if he's talking about gender in a positive way, you're going to get a group of young men who want to follow him, and rightfully so. Maybe what we should be doing is helping children and young people articulate their own feelings, manifest confidence, believe they have a position in our society, particularly young men, and feel valid in that search for happiness, because we're not doing that work. Instead, we're saying, you are bad, we believe you are bad, and we believe that without our help, which is going to be biased because every teacher is going to see things differently. Believe me, we've all been in situations where we've seen particular teachers that we would not necessarily like our children to be seen with a lens through. The reality is that in itself is a bias. So no, I think it won't work, and I don't think it ever has worked. I don't think this is paying lip service to something that's far deeper. So for example, why are we not saying in the UK right now we have a problem with women being classed as second-class citizens in particular areas, in particular belief systems, particular faiths? That's real. We see it. So what are we doing about that? Also, are people going to be able to refuse to actually engage in these classes because they feel they have a religious reason not to buy into that?
Well, that's it, isn't it? It is a challenge to...
Problematic.
So, for example, like if you're in a faith school and it's an academy and there are parts of your curriculum which are not part of the national curriculum and that they are completely at odds with this idea, that's going to cause an ideological challenge to those in charge of that school. So, for example, the headmaster or headmistress, I'm going to use the word headmistress, I'm not allowed to use that word anymore, but the headmistress, a female, who's in charge of a school, for example. I'll give you an example. If you have a faith school which is, I don't know, Muslim or Jewish, and you impose on them Black History Month, which is about another minority, which is about American imported culture. I mean, the facts are interesting in themselves, but again, with misogyny, it will clash with perhaps what they are teaching their children about society.
Well, the reality is that whether people in the Western culture want to acknowledge it or otherwise, in certain religious systems, there is a belief that the man is the head of the household, for example, and that is acknowledged and accepted, and it's the way it works. I'm not pro that. I don't think that's effective, but at the end of the day, that's the way things are. So they would probably see it as disrespectful to put a child in a circumstance where they're being taught norms that will not exist for them. And also, misogyny is suggesting that boys hate girls. I am yet to see 11-year-old young boy hate a girl. It just isn't typical within their experience.
No, it isn't. It isn't.
No, and that's what blows my mind, the fact that we're actually identifying this need in a world where that need isn't necessarily required. What we need is more sense of confidence, more sense of fulfillment, more sense of purpose, sense of responsibility in young men where they feel good about themselves. Because when you feel good about yourself, you haven't got the energy to be negative.
Emma Kenny, thank you very much. I've got to cut you there, unfortunately, but every word, every word. See you.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome along to hour 2. I haven't lost count. It's about that, right, isn't it? What a brilliant first hour. Thank you very much for all your contributions so far. I'm here till 10 o'clock. My name is Jonny Gould, and your texts are coming in thick and fast, all the things that have been discussed so far. 0344 499 1000, 87222 on the old text, and tweet at talkTV and at Jonny Gould. Lucy has texted us this disgusting misogyny plan by the government, she says, to gaslight in capital letters little boys. We're gaslighting little boys, says Lucy. In other words, innocent children and perfectly decent young men. It's an evil, she says, and we all know why it's happening. If my children were young now, I'd keep them out of school altogether to protect them from this sick indoctrination. It's a new low, even for this government, in our civilization. Lucy, thank you for that. May I recommend that instead of keeping your kids out of school, and of course they're now grown people and I'm sure they're very respectable members of society because of the way you brought them up, but you take them to faith schools, or you take them to religious houses, churches or synagogues, whatever religion you are, because you will get a different value system where at least you can extricate yourself from the overriding societal opinions and orthodoxy which you don't agree with. I'm reminded of the Going Underground song by The Jam, where Paul Weller's shouting into the microphone because he's an angry kid, saying, you know, I'm going underground because I feel at odds with society. That's basically what he was saying. Not sure I wanted the society that he was promoting, but you take my point. Anyway, here's a good one. Ian, thank you for this. I remember in the early 80s, we had a whole spectrum of role models, from the A-Team to Culture Club. Blimey, there's a spectrum, isn't there? You had Boy George going on about, do you really want to hurt me? And he preferred a cup of tea to sex, which probably didn't turn out to be true, but it was just got the Daily Express going in the early 80s, didn't it? Oh, I prefer a cup of tea to sex. 3 sugars, please, said Boy George in the 1980s before he discovered his predilections later on in life. And Mr. T, what did he say? He used to say things like, I pity the fool. Do you remember he had like a Mohican? But what I loved about the A-Team was where they used to shoot at each other, but nobody died, no one got hit. It was just sort of like a game of cowboys and Indians, wasn't it? Cowboys and Native Americans, I should say. Hang on. Yes, there's a bit of PC action there. In me nut. In the name of balance, a small amount of time teaching children on the signs of misandry too, which is obviously the opposite of misogyny. Thank you for that, Matt. And you can always contact me via SMS at 87222 0344 499 1000. And us mortgage payers have had a bit of respite today, haven't we? Because we've had yet another reduction in interest rates. Now, it's taken a little bit of time for the government, or I shouldn't say that, the Independent Bank of England, to take this action, but they've done it now, and it's the lowest rate for a long time. Is it 3 years? Or is it more than that? We're going to talk to someone now who really knows about this. He's an old friend of mine. You'll know him too. Economist, banking expert, Justin Urquhart Stewart. Hello, Justin.
Johnny, good evening.
Good evening. Merry Christmas.
I'm thoroughly enjoying the end of my flu with some wine.
Oh, well done. Good. Yes, bring it on air. It's like Graham Norton, this, isn't it? Now, 3.75%. I mean, I'm gonna go out and buy an extra din-dins for my family now with the money I've saved from tomorrow. Isn't that good, huh?
That's an improvement, yes.
Yeah.
However, of course, bear in mind, more people save in this country than
Well,
borrow.
that's it. It's bad for savings for older people who've got the money.
Older people sitting there with their deposits, suddenly sitting there, hang on a second, I saved all my money over the years so I could live off the deposits, the interest on the deposits, and I'm not getting anything, or not getting very much. So the winners and losers with it. However, what is important with this, because the most important part of our economy is getting the economy moving, and that depends on two things. One, the confidence of the consumer. You and I, if we don't have confidence, we don't go and have supper. You don't go out and spend much money.
That's it.
And we account for over 60% of the economy. And the other side is smaller companies. Smaller companies are the largest employer in the country, not the big, huge, great conglomerates of international companies. And we're actually very good at doing that. But this government, unfortunately, has been ignoring smaller companies and actually raising tax so that the lowest people on income are actually paying more income tax rather than less, diametrically the opposite of what they were trying to do. So this is why I don't understand. It is illogical at the moment. We have got good companies. We've got the opportunity to try and grow. There is no shortage of money in this country. I don't want the government to spend any more money. What I want the government to do is to create incentives by way of guarantees for lenders, enterprise investment schemes and things like that, whereby people will put up money and say 50% of it is guaranteed, and they only have to pay for it if it goes wrong. So the government doesn't spend any money at all, but it encourages more money to go into the economy. And once you start doing that, it builds up more momentum. And unfortunately, what you've seen over the past 18 months is diametrically the opposite.
Yes.
Actually, companies actually coming away saying, well, I can't see where the growth is coming from. Where's the incentive for us? We're having to spend more money on actually employing people.
Yes.
We actually increase taxation on employing people, and which is utterly ludicrous. And actually trying to make sure that smaller companies should be in a position where if they're making profits, actually they should have a lower rate of tax so that actually they encourage them to try and grow. That's what we want to try and do. We are very good at it, and we're better than our continental neighbours at it. But unfortunately, this government doesn't have anybody who, as far as I can see, who's actually run a business. Definition of running a business: waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning in a cold sweat, wondering if you've still got one.
Yeah, I know the feeling.
And this lot, I'm afraid, don't have it.
I tell you what, you and Napoleon Bonaparte, you both said we're a nation of shopkeepers.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. This nation of shopkeepers. And I know this to be true because you go to Strasbourg and other sort of Teutonic French cities, and they have these beautiful squares, right? And they have maybe a church around the side of it, and then they have lovely blocks of flats around the side, but there's no shops.
No.
It's like, so you have to schlep into town. They don't have a newsagent. Or if there's one shop, it's a pizza parlour, which of course they're immigrants to France.
Yeah.
So they don't encourage business in the way that we're... Because if it was a British square, there'd be shops on every ground floor, wouldn't it? We have mixed use. You'd have...
Well, it would be, but that's, of course, one of the problems we've had is you look at the high street now, an awful lot of those shops have been closing.
Yes.
And you go down, and I've noticed, certainly in the past 18 months, a very significant number of shops now closing.
Empty. Yes.
And where they're bringing it, and what you should be doing with that is actually saying, right, what we need is the council tax arrangements for those to encourage people to bring businesses in, or alternatively as well, actually have people actually living more people in the city centres. Yeah. And some areas have done it. What they've done, actually, quite often I've seen in certain areas of London, they've developed housing areas to encourage investors. And who's investing in it? People from the Far East. Well, it's very nice, but they don't live here.
Yes.
That doesn't really help very much.
No, it doesn't.
So we've got the money here. We've got the mechanism to be able to do it. We just don't seem to have the politicians with the initiative to say, how do I run this economy properly? You need to be able to make sure you have confidence in that. And the confidence indicators, actually, despite the headlines we've had over the past few months, have been slowly improving. And that's encouraging. And what you need then is the politicians to actually say, good, now let's back that up with lower interest rates, which we're now starting to see.
Yeah, good.
Now let's see that with some tax incentives as well, to say, right, come on, start a new business, and we'll give you a guarantee of 50% of the capital. If it goes bust, well, that's when the government has to pay for it. If it doesn't go bust, it doesn't cost the government anything at all.
I think that's great. I know this has been a hobby horse of yours. We've discussed this before. How close to government are you to make... Everyone knows who you are, Erky. Why don't you go in there and pop in and have a word? I mean, how close are you?
They don't want to speak to me anymore. I'm too much of an old fart, I think.
You're too much of an annoyance, I think, with the because you're against the prevailing wind of ideology, aren't you, on this?
Well, it's the trouble. The frustrating thing is, it's not revolutionary. It's actually quite logical.
It's logical.
And it's going against, actually, as well, unfortunately, some of the old-fashioned political arguments, whether it's left-wing or right-wing. No, forget that. Just look at the basis of how you run a business. And that's not a political issue. It's just frankly, a good old-fashioned mathematical issue. And the more people you employ, they'll actually be earning tax. They'll be paying tax.
The tax take
They'll be
would go
spending
up,
money.
yes.
More money going through the economy, and that's what you'll find is actually it starts to improve. It takes time to do, but you need confidence. Now, unfortunately, with this particular government, there's no confidence.
Yes.
We have a prime minister. I'm sure he's an awful nice chap, but he sounds like a Dalek. You're not exactly going to sort of sit there, follow me over the top, chaps, over the trenches. I don't think anybody would.
No, he's not the great inspirer, is he? He's not no. Churchill, is he?
No, not really. No,
not even Churchill the dog. He's neither of the things. Two-part question. The second part is I'm going to ask for a friend in a moment. First one is, does anyone else call you Erky?
Some of my family occasionally do.
I'm pleased. I'm relieved it's not just me.
No.
Don't mind, do you?
No, the slightest.
That's good, because
I get worse.
Yeah, indeed. Okay, so now the next question is, everyone who has a mortgage will be delighted to see that their base rate is at 3.75%. But how long before you get that little letter through the post or the email on your app saying, oh, by the way, your 5.39 is now your 5.14? How long before it filters down into your mortgage?
Well, that varies according to what sort of mortgage you've got. If you've got a variable mortgage, you'll find out quite quickly.
Right.
Actually, what they tend to do, if it goes up, they'll tell you almost immediately. When it goes down, they'll tell you eventually.
Right. But how long? Because
that'll take a couple of months if it was coming down. However, what you'll find is an awful lot of people have got fixed-rate mortgages, and there's still an awful lot of people who had those ludicrously low-rate mortgages after the banking crisis, and when they didn't raise rates when they should have done, and they kept the emergency rates going, so people had 1%, 2%, and they're still now, if they're going to have to renew their mortgage, having to suddenly go up to 3 3/4%. Whoa, that's a huge
But it's better
rise.
at least. I mean, I've got one. Yeah, I've got a very low interest rate, but it runs out very soon.
And so what you'll have to do with that is decide then quite carefully as to, right, do you fix that for another period, or do you think rates are going to carry on going down? And I think rates probably will carry on going down for a while.
Right.
We've still got inflation, and it's still lurking in that area. So, no, I would expect the rates to go down a little bit more. But for most people, actually, if you can actually just fix your rate, at least you know your budget, what it's going to cost you. That's what you really need to try and know. You're never going to get the cheapest rate because someone else, some clever git's going to get in front of you. But get something where you can actually understand what you're going to have to pay and can you afford it.
That's very interesting. And the other thing is, like, there's a state of flux, isn't there, for people who suddenly have applied for a new mortgage and they've got a new mortgage offer. And if you've been offered the mortgage and suddenly in the middle of the drawdown you're given a new rate, are you allowed to get the new offer at the new rate, or have you got to stick to the one that you got in October?
It'll vary according to the providers.
Yes.
And that's what you have when you go into these things. Get some advice from a good independent mortgage advisor to actually say, right, okay, given the alternatives happening here, rates going up or down, what is my flexibility? And can I split them into different bits and have different ways of trying to adjust it? So, the good news is you've got many, many more choices than you had, say, 15 years ago.
Right.
But the bad news is, though, of course, for an awful lot of people, they find themselves locked into a rate and they've got that for 3 or 4 years, and with the inflation we've had over the past few years, they've been feeling poorer. And so until that starts turning around and we see the confidence start building up and we actually get a government which starts reducing tax on the lowest paid, not raising it, then actually people have more confidence, they go out and spend a bit more. That's how we see the confidence grow.
Justin Urquhart-Stewart, a voice of reason, of clarity, and always a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you very much. That is the one and only Justin Urquhart-Stewart. I've known that gentleman for a very, very long time, and I'm not going to say how long, because it will incriminate me as an old man, won't it? 03444991000. You and misogyny, you are on it tonight. You really want to talk about it. We'll have more calls on it after this.
I was sat in the tent and he was showing me through photos of his phone, scrolling through. This was barbaric, horrific stuff. Blokes going through walls in vehicles and then jumping out and shooting everyone. You know, his WhatsApp picture was him with a mask on, with a gun like that.
You're in a tent with this guy.
I'm in a tent with this guy, and actually he's just showing me this stuff. I'm just thinking, this is not the kind of bloke you want to be coming to the UK.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
I was going to tell you that we were going to go to some calls on misogyny, but we're going to be going live to the farm. We're going to hear the sound of cows being milked by a farmer who's on his farm right now in southwest England, a cow and sheep farmer in Exmoor. James, hello, it's James Wright, welcome.
Hello, thanks for having me on.
Do you know, I've seen cows being milked with an industrial thing that you stick on the udders, and it's beautiful, like a very big, I mean, you know all this, I'm just explaining it for other people, but your milk fills it, and it's obviously not pasteurised, and I'm told that if it's raw milk, it's extremely healthy. Am I right, James?
Well, look, pasteurisation exists to kill all the bugs in the milk, but what I'll tell you is unpasteurised milk is about the best thing you'll ever taste. But I'm a beef farmer, so the cows behind me, their calves are the ones drinking the milk, so I'm just making sure the mums have got lots of food. They can produce lots of milk for their calves.
Can we see the cows? Can you bring
your
outside broadcast unit?
If I move out of the way, you'll be able to see the cows. So
That's great.
We're in a barn on Exmoor. They're just having their evening dinner, loads of silage, and it's been very wet today. So now we've got a bit of a dry movement. So I've come out to push up their silage.
Are they talking? Can we hear them go, Can we hear them?
They're pretty quiet. Once they've got some food in front of them, as you can see, they've got their heads down. So I've got about 70 cows in this shed. And once they've got the food, they go a bit quiet. But about 15 minutes ago, there was a bit of a cacophony. So
how lovely. Well, if they do pipe up for a sing-song, shut me up and we'll see if we can get them live on... Do you name them, by the way?
No, the only one that's got a name on this farm is Wilfred. So Wilfred's our bull. He weighs about 1,000 kilos, and he's the only one with a name.
I'd be tempted to call some of the cows Ermintrude.
Right.
Out of Dougal. Because that was the cow, the one with the daisy in its mouth. Do you remember? You're a bit young, actually.
I know. I was born in 1992, so unfortunately you're aging me. Yeah,
oh, my God, 1992. That was yesterday. Anyway, so look, the reason why, apart from anything, thank you for coming on the show and showing us your beautiful farm in Exmoor, and you are a farmer of some scale. And that is that farmers are left fearing a really bleak future. We keep on hearing this about the taxation problems that inheritance is facing in the farming industry, and about how supermarkets don't allow farmers to make money out of their milk because the margins are so tight, and you wonder why you're making a living for like a penny a pint or even less perhaps. But then there's this review by Baroness Batters, who's a former head of the National Farmers Union, who's called for a whole new deal for this industry hit by rising costs and loss of subsidies, rising wage bills, inheritance tax reforms, which obviously the farmers are going into Westminster with their combine harvesters, and some of them with cows as well, go through supermarkets as well. I like that as a protest, one of my favourites. And a halt to multi-million-pound subsidy schemes. They've left farmers questioning the future of their businesses, a report for the government has found. And if you start attacking the farming industry, I mean, that is a genuine national security issue, isn't it?
Well, food security is national security, and a nation that can't feed itself is no nation at all. And farming it's at the moment it's at a very critical point. We've been, for the last 60 years, we've given billions of pounds for farmers for not doing a lot, right? We've got money for basically looking after the countryside and keeping it looking the same. And when we left the EU, we replaced that with paying farmers to basically look after the environment. That's a good thing, right? Paying farmers for doing something that benefits us all. But Labour have stopped that. So since September, you haven't been able to apply for that. Sorry, so since the spring, you haven't been able to apply for that. So what farmers want is, we want a little bit of certainty. We like producing food for the country, and we want to know that next year we'll be able to do that. But the rules keep on changing. The money that farmers were being paid for the environment has disappeared. So this review is welcome, but the elephant in the room is the family farm tax, 20% of a farm's value. And if there's a profitability problem now, what are we going to do when every generation we've got to pay 20% to the government? I really don't know.
And we all know that elephants are genetic cousins of cows. That's why you said that. Baroness Batters has stopped short of calling for an inheritance tax reversal from Sir Keir Starmer's government. But she does say that a new deal for more profitable farming is needed to recognise the true cost of producing food and, of course, protecting the environment. She's got 57 recommendations, including what she calls quick wins, obviously common sense things, such as making it easier for farmers to build reservoirs on their land and improve access to finance. Workforce shortages were the single biggest blocker to profitability for horticulture in the longer term, she says. Wage costs are up, as are rises in national insurance contributions. Obviously, this very thin line between taxation and profitability really affects critical industries like farms. Even machinery is up 31%. James, I mean, you guys are one of the biggest victims of this, increase in taxation, because your profitability is so tight, isn't it? Your margins are so low.
Oh, yeah, I mean, wheat. I mean, I'm a beef farmer. The beef price is pretty good at the moment. But
right.
For wheat, it's the same that it was 20 years ago.
Really?
So you can imagine all the regulations, all the costs that increased in the last 20 years. Yeah, huge. And and energy is so much of what goes into our food. So when the oil price rises, when the electricity price rises, that is impacts on our profitability, but also what you pay in the shops as well. And farmers want food, we produce food, and we want that to be readily available to the public. So what we need is that regulation to come off, that tax burden to come off, some support around the energy, so that we can, do what we love, which is turning grass into milk, which the calf drink, which turns into beef. That's what we want to do, right? And the arable farmers want to turn the seed they plant into the ground, into the wheat, which goes into the bread, and the barley that goes into our beer. That's what we want to do. We want to be left alone to do those things.
You just mentioned beer, so now I'm completely switched on, as are all our audience as well. Now, also, some of her additional recommendations, and this is related to food security, the purchase of more British food by hospitals, by the public sector, by schools and other caterers in the public sector. The government argues they're crucial to shoring up the public finances. The idea of, buying a cauliflower from New Zealand is it seems immoral. It just seems crazy.
Absolutely. And, British food is some of the best in the world.
Yeah.
And when people are sick in hospitals, when we've got children growing up, we want to maximise their nutrition. Why are we not buy British? And the answer is because it's produced to such high standards, it is slightly more expensive. And the civil servants say they want to, save those pennies. But actually what we should do is investing in the health of the nation and buying British food. I'll give you an example. Our ration packs that we give to the military still uses beef from Brazil.
No.
Why are we not buying great British beef? And
is it
and
price discriminative? I mean, is Brazilian beef cheaper than British beef?
Yeah, simply is. It's cheaper. They use hormones. Hormones have been banned in British farming for decades, and just makes their animals more efficient. They can produce it cheaper than we can, and so no resentment to the great Brazilian farmers, but we want British beef.
We want British beef. And just a quick one on things like hormones. Does it affect blokes? Does it turn you into Larry Grayson?
Well, I look, I'm not an expert, but it's been banned in the UK for a long time,
Right.
and
What a gay day.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone knows who Larry Grayson was. All you got to do is look him up on the Generation Game. Oh, I love Larry. He made me laugh. Hey, listen, James, thank you. James Wright, you've been an excellent guest. Thank you so much. James Wright is a beef farmer in southwest England, a cow and sheep farmer to be precise, in Exmoor. Oh, what a show. I'm enjoying it. I hope you are. 0344 499 1000. What's been getting your goat, talking of farming, is misogyny, and Melanie in Watford wants a word. Hello, Melanie.
Hi.
Hello.
This is a little bit complex, but yesterday I read in a newspaper that there was an essay or a document in what's called the Journal of Medical Ethics, which is published by the British Medical Journal in this country. And its title is The Harms of the Current Global Anti-FGM Campaign, meaning campaigning against FGM is harming ethnic minorities.
Right.
I was staggered. I had to go and read the actual document, and I'm absolutely bemused by how anyone expounding medical ethics can talk against trying to get rid of FGM. It's saying that communities are vilified by using the word mutilation. It's way too over the top. It's stigmatizing communities and causing problems of suspicion and alerting surveillance on migrant families. And again, the women involved, it's saying that they've been misrepresented because there may be PTSD that we're talking about in the West and in journalism, but it's misrepresenting them. And there are so many levels to this document produced by the British Medical Journal to not supporting and helping these women who are victims of FGM. It's staggering.
Is it a compulsory practice in Islam? Not all women are FGM'd, for want of a better phrase, are they? Are they? What did the article say?
It doesn't say. It actually talks about different ethnicities and different cultures. It doesn't completely go in and zoom in on a Muslim culture.
Okay, so it's other. It's also African culture, isn't it?
Yes. And it's also saying that it's too general a term because there are such a wide range of different types of genital tinkering.
Cutting, want of a better word. Yes.
And they're also saying, why is it so bad? Why are we talking about female genital mutilation when in so many cultures males, such as circumcision, etc., which personally I feel is a mutilation. I think a child has no choice in the matter. So to try and compare it with male genital changes, it's on a different scale as far as I can see, because there are so many different versions for FGM. But they say yes, some are easier than others. They've been misreported. They've done this. They've done that. I honestly, it just feels like a creeping. It's okay for FGM. It really is. Don't worry about it because it's a cultural practice, and we shouldn't moan about cultural practices. I'm horrified.
Yes, this is a very difficult subject in the sense that, we're a beacon of personal freedom in this country, and suddenly, because of mass immigration, we are being challenged in some of the values that we hold dear. And this is one of them, Melanie, because on one hand, we abhor some of the practices that have been imported here in mass number. But on the other hand, we're also the country of the Magna Carta, of personal freedom, of the right to own property, of, you know, those sort of basics, unwritten kind of rules. So I just wonder, Melanie, even though you find this appalling, you don't like it, there's the Britishness part of you which sort of says, well, this is a great and open society and we need to respect and protect it even if we don't agree with it. I mean, that's kind of what I'm thinking here, Melanie.
Unfortunately, I feel I'm on the side of things like this puberty blockers drug.
Oh man, that's really...
Children cannot make an informed choice.
Of course they can't.
How can and when it comes to other FGM and any genital mutilation, I don't understand why we don't stand up more for the children who cannot make the informed choice. They cannot tell you, no, I don't want this done.
Shouldn't it be up to the family, though? I mean, you can't have, you know, the police intervene in such a sort of, for example, religious practice, can you? You can't have the cops knocking on the door, can you? I mean, that's an abruption of freedom for a community that practices that. That's the other problem here. Can't have the cops knocking. You've got hello, what's going on here? Then you can't do that, can you? That's not British either. Do you see what I mean? We've got a problem here, Melanie. It's like the moral maze, isn't it?
It's a huge problem, but I just still think that we should stand up for the individual's right.
Right. Yeah.
To protect themselves.
Yes.
And make a difference. If child isn't allowed to go and buy alcohol or smoke or get married or vote, how is it that something can be done to them like that?
Yes. Melanie, I'm glad you've presented the argument, and I've presented the argument in terms of personal freedom for families rather than the cops or wider society or politicians getting involved in family decisions. It is a difficult one. And I wonder if you have a thought on that. 03444991000, because misogyny and masculinity is a big part of the show tonight. So what we'll do is we'll take a breather, we'll have a cup of tea, we'll take a break, put the kettle on, and I'll see you in a minute.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome along to the show. It's Jonny in the chair between now And at 10 o'clock, Andre and Ash will be along in, about an hour and 21 minutes and 34 seconds. It's not bad, is it? That's right, isn't it, Marky? Yeah, all right there. Still got my grey matter. Now, the Tories have vowed to create a £50 billion defence fund through green cuts. Kemi Badenoch, who talks a lot of sense, doesn't she, these days? She plans to axe the vanity schemes to boost Britain's war readiness. Net zero projects and, quotes, nonsense research grants would be scrapped under Tory plans to divert £17 billion towards funding Britain's defence. The Tory party leader has announced she would axe taxpayer funding for vanity schemes and instead funnel that cash into boosting the UK's war readiness. The Tory leader would set up £50 billion worth of sovereign defence funds made up of public and private investment to replenish the armed forces. Her intervention comes after the head of the Navy warned that a shortage of cash could mean Britain loses control of the North Atlantic to Russia. Now, this was an amazing story. This was a quote the other day. I didn't realise that Rule Britannia still ruled the waves. It does, right? Rule Britannia rules the waves. It's not just a sing-song from the proms. We still run things when it comes to the sea in the North Atlantic, but Russia is having a pop. It's having a big go. That's why we see through our binoculars Russian ships a little bit close to our Scottish borders up north, isn't it? So under the Tory plans, £11 billion for green energy schemes would be taken out of Labour's National Wealth Fund and reallocated to defence spending. And so now we're going to talk to Maurice Cousins, who's the campaign director for Net Zero Watch, to unpack this story. Maurice, a very good evening to you.
Good evening, Johnny, and Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you. Is Kemi talking a lot of good common sense here?
She is. I would say she is. Yes. This is good news to see it. I think my only sort of caveat really with it would be to say that, you know, whilst defence does need to have more money pumped into it, there's no one who's denying that. You know, levels of expenditure have plummeted in recent decades, and we're not pulling our weight, as the United States have sort of said. But actually, the problems with our defence actually go a lot deeper really than just money. We don't have, and we're not producing enough of our own kit. And that is an industrial capacity issue. You may have sort of seen in the last few days stories about Grangemouth, and that is a petrochemical plant. That's just recently seen a cash injection there to save that. Obviously, over the summer, there was the ding-dong over Scunthorpe, which is our last primary steel manufacturing facility. Obviously, that's needed when you're needing to produce primary grade steel, which high quality steel that's required for making things like submarines, ships, all of that sort of stuff. And we just don't have the industrial capacity, and unfortunately, it goes even deeper than that. You know, the reason why we don't have that level of that industrial depth that's required to fight a war is because we have some of the highest energy bills in the developed world.
In the developed world.
We've got the highest industrial electricity prices in the developed world. Now, you haven't got a cat and hell's chance of building that industrial capacity that's needed for a pre-war economy, and you don't have a cat and hell's chance of sustaining that conflict if, God forbid, war did ever break out.
Indeed, and God forbid, because Putin is saber-rattling over this. Now, I touched on it in the introduction to you, Maurice, which is that the Royal Navy Chief has given a stark warning that you must fund defence or risk losing Atlantic to Russia. And the biggest eye-opener for me was that when General Sir Gwyn Jenkins said that Russia is still investing billions in its northern fleet, even if it's waging war against Ukraine, that we still are superior in the Atlantic to Russia. So it's not just a sing-song of the last century and the one before it, that Rule Britannia rules the waves. We really do. We really do. And so we still have not just soft power in the world with our Premier League football and all our sort of, pop songs, but we do have genuine power as an island in the north. We keep on bashing ourselves, but if we do rule the waves, it's absolutely precious that we maintain that over Russia.
I mean, yes, it's important that we do that. I think the only caveat, again, I would say to that is, of course, that Russia historically has never really been a naval power. It's always been a land-based power.
Wow.
And, you know...
But it's changing, isn't it? They're investing money even if they're at war with Ukraine.
Yes, I mean, you know, obviously they are doing that, and they've invested not just in you know, naval capacity, but they are investing as well in underwater drones. And, you know, one of the main reasons for that, you know, Johnny, is because they are mapping, you know, they are actively mapping, according to NATO and the Royal Navy, our underwater infrastructure. That's cables, but it's also things like pipelines, interconnectors, that sort of stuff. So, you know, it's having a decent sized Navy is important, not just for the protection of our islands, but also to deter Russia from entering into our territorial waters. You know, we are desperately exposed, more than we have been at any time in our history, to underwater threats because in the last few decades we have increased our connections, if you like, with the continent for our energy needs, our telecommunication needs, you know, you name it. There are that infrastructure has been built up over the years, and it's very, very vulnerable. And you know, for your listeners out there who had grandparents that were alive during the war, you know, you're right. You know, ensuring that we can protect the Atlantic is really, really important, because we need to ensure that we can get supplies across from countries like the United States, and that's really critical now, since we've made ourselves more reliant on the United States for liquefied natural gas. So yeah, it's you know, yes, this is good news that the Tories are coming up with these creative policy ideas to pump more money into defence, but you know, we need to be thinking a lot deeper than just money. There's an energy problem and an industrial capacity issue.
Yeah, listen, Maurice, this is a fascinating discussion. Thank you very much for outlining it all for us here. Maurice Cousins is the campaign director for Net Zero Watch, and long may his voice be part of the discussion. 03444991000. It is time to return to the hot topic tonight, which is the misogyny debate about these courses that they're threatening to send boys on in school. Like, the assumption is that boys are being misogynistic and that girls need protection. Is that really the case? That's what Starmer and his government want to do. 03444991000. We're going to have a chat with Frank in Bristol. Stay tuned after this break.
I was sat in the tent and he was showing me through photos of his phone, scrolling through. This was barbaric, horrific stuff. Blokes going through walls in vehicles and then jumping out and shooting everyone. His WhatsApp picture was him with a mask on, with a gun like that.
You're in a tent with this guy?
I'm in a tent with this guy, and actually he's just showing me this stuff. I'm just thinking, this is not the kind of bloke you want to be coming to the UK.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
A little bit more meat on the bone about this misogyny trial, where boys are going to be sent on courses to tackle girl hate at school. So teachers are going to be given training to spot and tackle this thing in the classroom. Even high-risk pupils could be sent on behavioural courses. How much is it going to cost? Well, just reading down here, the taxpayer will foot £16 million of the bill, while the government says it's actually now working closely with philanthropists. There are apparently, you know, millionaires, billionaires who want to contribute to this misogyny policy. OK, and they need an extra £4 million. The funding covers the 3-year spending review period because apparently nearly 40% of teenagers in relationships are victims of abuse, domestic abuse, and that's according to a charity called Reducing the Risk. I don't know what to make of it, so I need your help. 0344 499 1000. Elaine in Derbyshire.
Hello, Johnny.
Hello, Elaine. What do you make of all this?
I think that this is part of the reason why homeschooling has gone up.
Right.
I don't want a 24-year-old teacher talking to my child about relationships and the values surrounding it. I've got a son who's 24, and this kind of like misogyny, consent stuff is one of the reasons why I dropped out of college, because uni, I mean, it's because that's not why I went there. But my issue is, if you want to tackle these issues surrounding especially young girls getting into bad relationships, one of the first things you need to do is make sure fathers stay in the home, because they're a protective factor for daughters. And you'll find the outcomes for girls, especially, it's not very fashionable to say this, but from single parent homes, and it's not that single mums aren't doing their best, but dads can spot a wrong un. And it's, you know, when you've got a wrong young man sniffing around your daughter, and you've got a dad and a brother in the home, you know, the equation's a lot different.
You're not wrong. I mean, I fear that. My kids aren't quite old enough to have dates, but I just fear it.
Yeah, and this is the thing. And what I don't understand is the government are going to pull this money out of their behind. We've got 2-3 year waiting lists for special needs schools. Some schools, some children are not even in education because they haven't got a school place because they've got special needs. There are children who have got anxiety. There are schools that are short of schools. It's like with this government, anything to do but not to tackle the actual issues.
Yeah.
It's not young British boys, black, white or Asian, who are dragging girls into bushes. That's not who are doing this.
No.
And
who's doing it? Is anyone doing it?
Well, it's the people they're inviting over on the boats.
Right.
According to the court case that happened the other day.
And of course, grooming gangs in northern and Midlands towns as well, and London as well. We're finding out.
But Johnny, it's the same thing with the house situation.
Yeah.
Instead of solving the issue around the NHS, they bring in euthanasia. They bring in abortion up to birth. All these things, instead of tackling the actual issue. And it's just mind-blowing that they keep saying they've got no money, but they seem to have money to do all these other things other than educate our children.
Absolutely.
When I send my child to school, and other people do, we're not wanting some 24-year-old teacher
to
give our children values around relationships.
Elena, what you said right at the beginning of the call, which is I'm not surprised that homeschooling is going up. I'm also imagining that faith schools are also going up in demand for the simple reason that they detach themselves slightly from the orthodoxy of the outside world to some extent, so that kids come out of there being taught manners and maybe Christian values or Jewish values. They feel slightly different or removed from the kind of orthodoxy that you might hear, you know, on your average BBC station, for example.
Well, I would say yes, but I would say to people I wouldn't bank on Church of England schools.
Right.
For that, they're kind of in lockstep with this kind
bit
of
establishment.
woo-woo.
Is that what you're saying?
But I would
not
say
other forms of Christianity are available.
Yeah, and your Jewish schools, and even your Muslim and your Sikh schools.
Yeah.
They're not going to be doing any of this.
No, they can't. It's against a lot of their teachings, or at least if it isn't, they teach some slightly different value system that makes misogyny training redundant.
And can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Can I ask you a big favour?
Please.
Anytime you get a head teacher on,
yes,
right, that's taken up this programme, what I want you to ask them is, what are your maths scores and what are your English scores at GCSE level? Because unless they're 100%, I'm not interested in any school taking this up. If they haven't got enough teachers or TAs, why are they wasting money on this? This is not the core issue. This is a programme you take up when you're 100% at maths, 100% at English, you're fully staffed, your son's children are fully catered for, you've got no truancy, do you know what I mean?
I do. Concentrate on the 3 R's, says Elaine in Derbyshire, before we do this luxury stuff. Elaine, thank you very much. Elaine in Derbyshire. Let's go to Bristol now and talk to Frank. Frank, hello.
Hello, John.
Hello, mate.
She was brilliant. Your last call
Wasn't she good?
Brilliant.
Yes.
Yeah.
We've had some brilliant calls tonight. I've got to say, a lot of common sense has been spoken at the home of common sense.
A couple of points of mine is one, I know they're trying to demasculate our countries. That's what's happening, so that there's no protection, so that we will not be able to protect ourselves.
Yeah.
That's what's been going on for decades. But
and how have men reacted? How have the next generation reacted? People who are a bit younger than us. How's your average 30-year-old faring in his nut?
He doesn't know any better.
Right.
Yeah, I got a cousin of that age, and he said, you know, it's not a title I ever looked to get or even thought I might get, but he said, you're the ultimate alpha male, aren't you, really? I said, what do you mean? I'm in charge of my gang. Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
I take care of my gang. My little mob, you know, me, kids, wife, I take care of us, and I make sure the food covers for that and all the bills are paid.
Yes, I'm that bloke as well. I'm that bloke in my family and all. But my missus, I must say, she pulls her weight as well. We're a sort of modern family, but obviously I get the big bills because I'm the bloke.
Yeah, that's the equality is going on at all times.
Yeah.
There's things my wife could never dream of doing on my level, but there's things I just could not hold a candle to her at other things.
That's it, isn't it?
Yeah,
that's it.
The thing. But when you talk about misogyny, I worked nightclub doors for years.
Did you? You see, that gives you a head start in being a geezer, though.
Yeah.
It does, doesn't it? I mean, you know, are you a bit handy, Frank?
Well, I can earn me money if I got to earn it.
I'm not as handy as you, if you know what I mean. Not quite.
But I opened the door one night to see women. They stopped dead on the threshold. We don't need the likes of you to open a door for us.
Oh, right, okay.
I said, I do apologise, so I shut the door. Training as well.
That's equality in action, Frank.
Yeah, so the next time I opened it and let someone else in, they tried to walk in. I said, excuse me, I didn't open it for you.
You're a true man of equality, indeed, Frank.
Now, there's your point, see, because the majority of people asking for equality don't want equality.
Yeah.
They want their own way. That's what they want.
Yes, yes.
And there's a big difference. You know, Well, what else can we say? You know, so who was misogynistic, me or those two women?
Well, it's a good point. It's a good point, well made. Frank, thank you very much indeed. Can we squeeze one more call in before the top of the hour? I think we can. Are we going to go to Mark? Mark in Lincolnshire. Hello, Mark. Welcome to the show. Mark's not there. Lenny from Ashford. It wouldn't be a show without Lenny.
Good evening, John.
Good evening, Lenny.
Well, I think the answer's very simple, but to repair it is very difficult.
Go on, tell us.
Well, we got to return to our Britishness.
Right.
And the one person who done all the damage to our Britishness was Theresa May.
Gosh, and she was only in power for a short time. How do you mean?
Well, she devastated law and order. And when you got no law and order, you got no respect for anything.
Yes. I tell you what we're going to do. This is all very interesting if you're blaming the Prime Minister who was only in charge only slightly longer than Liz Truss, Lenny. So what we'll do is we'll take a break for the news and all the other stuff here on Talk, and we'll come back to you, Lenny, and try and work out what you mean and if people agree with you. So we're going to talk about that, your calls on everything we've done so far, farming with a bleak future, the Bank of England cutting interest rates, and the super flu. Are we going to wear masks? Lord knows. All answers are here. All life is here. Jonny Gould here on Talk.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hey there, you. It's Jonny Gould here for another hour on Talk, and then I surrender the chair to Andre Walker and Ash Gould. That's right, his surname's Gould, because we am brothers. All right, man. All right, Bubba. He'll be on later on with the show that you know and love all these years. Ash is ready for you here on Talk to take you into the wee small hour of 1 o'clock. Now, we like to lead each hour with an extraordinary story and an allegation, which is that Theresa May has compromised our Britishness. That sharp allegation came from Lenny in Ashford. Lenny is back with us as we start this new hour. Lenny?
Yes, Johnny. No
Go
problem, mate. Well, we used to have a law and order system and Britishness that was respected throughout the world. Now, when Theresa May devastated our law and order, she made 40,000 redundant, 20,000 police officers, 20,000 backroom staff, and also closed a lot of the training facilities down. And now a lot of policemen are actually interviewed on a computer.
Right.
They don't even have a proper interview.
Yes.
Now, when you've got a police force that's been devastated like that, we've got no respect in the country. And all the problems we have got, like when you've got no respect for law and order, and you lose respect in all other areas, like, no different, the young boys have lost respect for females.
Right. And the other thing, and I think Douglas Murray has raised this, that there are some forces around the country that have not solved one single burglary crime in a given period whilst trying to arrest people for their tweets. There's a lot of low-hanging fruit in our policing, isn't there?
Yeah, well, we've got, everywhere you look, it's two-tier justice. Now, and what it is, unless everybody is treated on a level playing field, on an even keel, then this country cannot repair itself.
Yeah, no fear or favour. That was the whole point of the policing. Yeah, okay. Kevin, listen, thank you. Lenny, thank you very much. I've just called you Kevin for no reason there. Listen, it's very nice to have you on the show, and thank you very much. Call again soon. Simon, yes, this is the story. Sorry, just for a second. I have got it, mate. I have got everything in front of me, and I'm going to start again in 3, 2, and 1. This is Jonny Gould here on Talk. Just lost it for a moment. It's the first time in the couple of hours. I think you might have done all right so far tonight. Now listen, the NHS is on high alert because of this super flu that's going on. Do you know someone who's got super flu at the moment? I must tell you, I am a major beneficiary of super flu because I've stood in for 2 people who've been a bit off colour over the last couple of days. One was Petri Hoskin yesterday, which I stood in at 10 o'clock, and Samara tonight. And I must admit, I need to go home and rest myself because I don't want to be catching it either. Otherwise, someone will be standing in for me, and I don't want that to happen. So let's talk to a microbiologist about this revelation that the NHS is on high alert. And we've got a strike at the moment with the doctors, haven't we? There's a surge in flu, up 18% this week, prompting fears of a national emergency. Are those fear-mongering headlines, or are they fake news, or are they a real threat? Let's talk to a microbiologist by the name of Simon Clark. Simon, good evening, and thank you very much for taking the time to join us tonight.
Good evening.
Good evening. How are we doing? Is there anyone you know got it?
I think I had it a few weeks ago, but I've had the vaccine, so I was only unwell for about 36 hours.
Right.
But I was sat in a meeting today with somebody who didn't sound so good, so we'll see whether they're ill for Christmas.
Now tell me, how can you, if you haven't had the flu jab, what is the best way of resisting the illness? Is it sort of to wash your hands, not rub your eyes, get a good night's sleep? What are the kind of things that you need to keep a healthy body, or have you just got to be lucky? Not someone cough in your face on the bus and that kind of thing.
Well, yeah. The best way, if one hasn't had the vaccine, to avoid getting flu is to avoid other people completely.
Right.
You can do things like, maintain good hygiene, try not to touch your face, but then you've only got to get somebody breathe or cough over you on the bus or the tube or whatever.
That's right.
And that's what's going to happen. You can maintain good immunity by getting a good night's sleep, not drinking too much alcohol, eating well, that sort of thing, eating properly. That's sort of considered the boring stuff, but it's true.
So here are the stats then, Simon. An average of 3,140 flu patients were in hospital each day last week in England. That's up from 2,660 the previous week. This time last year, it was 2,629, 3,140 at the moment. And while in 2023, it virtually didn't exist, there were only 600 or so who suffered from flu back then. And patients are facing appalling and degrading conditions, and they're overwhelmed, apparently. This is according to Ed Davey. Well, you know, he would say that, wouldn't he? But having said that, and this is a serious point, health chiefs say higher vaccination rates have helped drive down those cases, as 18 million people have now had the flu jab. But England's top doctor has the NHS not out the woods yet. Professor Meghana Pandit says so. Simon, is it going to get worse? Or as the fact that 18 million people have had the jab mean that we're over the worst of it by Christmas? Where are we?
So normally we would expect things to peak in the middle of, around about the middle of January, and to have heavy flu seasons in January and February. It's come early this year, and that might mean, and I emphasise it's a might, but it's sort of, if I can put it this way, burnt through all the people it's going to. I doubt that, though. I suspect what normally happens is that, it bubbles along at a low level around this time of year, and then really takes off when people start to mix and get together and spend time in prolonged time
Christmas
indoors
parties
over Christmas. Exactly. And that's really what seems to light the blue touch paper.
Yeah.
So I'm slightly concerned
The
that
flu touch
although the
paper.
numbers over the past, the flu touch paper. So I'm slightly concerned that the numbers of sort of they're slowing down a bit. They're still going up, but they're not going up as fast as they were. The change in people's habits over the coming week or so might get it going again, and we might end up in a worse situation. But having said that, it could have peaked. We have no way of knowing what the situation is going to be like in a month's time.
And I was told a long time ago that the flu jab that people take is last year's strain of the illness, and of course flu mutates. So how much of a deterrent from getting the flu this year is last year's flu in your body?
It's not last year's flu. It is this summer's, our summer's flu in the southern hemisphere.
Right.
So what normally happens is that the flu that is circulating in our summer, in the southern hemisphere winter, migrates northwards, and we get it. That's what normally happens. It doesn't always happen. So the people who decide on what to put in the vaccine have to make a guess, but it's an educated guess about how to make the vaccine. And it's not always right. It's usually right. In fact, I would go so far as to say it's nearly always right. But they don't have a 100% success rate, 100% hit rate in predicting that, even with the best will in the world and the best data, because you can never be sure. But really, it's what was circulating in the southern hemisphere during our summer.
Mark, what are these symptoms of flu? I remember genuinely having flu as a child, and I couldn't put my head on my pillow. My neck hurt so much. I had a streaming, horrible headache, and I was told that was flu. People talk about colds like they're fluey, which is a completely wrong thing to call it. What is flu like for a sufferer?
So, we all know people who come into work and say, "Oh, I've got flu, I feel terrible." They haven't got flu.
No, they haven't.
They've got a cold. It might be a very unpleasant, very heavy cold. If you've got flu, when it's got hold of you, it's you're not going to be able to get out of bed and go to work. The key indicators are that the symptoms go on quite quickly compared to a cold, and you get fever and aches and pains where you wouldn't normally get.
Right.
And that's the essential difference. But no, generally speaking, flu is much more unpleasant than a cold, and you will not be going to work if you really do have flu.
No, I had it as a child a long, long time ago, and it really was unmistakable and very unpleasant. Now, a fresh round of resident doctors' strikes kicked off earlier this week, which makes the situation potentially even worse. Earlier than usual surge in flu cases ahead of Christmas. It's thought cases are being driven by a strain of flu dubbed subclade K or H3N2. And the last time I heard that was in Star Wars. The strain mutated several times over the summer. We're talking about mutations here. And it's different to the ones we're usually exposed to each flu season. And it may be more than severe. Do we actually know that, or is that speculation? Is it too early to say what it is?
We know that H3 flu viruses are normally more severe, or normally cause a more severe illness. And there are a couple of reasons for that. One of them is that it transmits a bit better. It seems, and I think there's anecdotal evidence to suggest the symptoms are slightly worse. We also know that we haven't seen an H3 virus circulate in the human population for a reasonable amount of time. I can't remember when the last one was. But that means that when people get it, the sort of low-level immunity, not enough immunity to stop them getting ill at all, but the sort of immunity which ameliorates and reduces the severity just isn't there, or isn't there to the same degree that it would be for H1, which is what we normally get. So therefore, people are a bit more susceptible to being that more ill, if I can put it that way.
Yes, I understand. Now, it'll affect maybe the most vulnerable in our society, maybe more. So if you're a hale and hearty 30-year-old, 6-foot-tall man or woman, maybe you'll be less susceptible to this. Maybe it's about children and elderly people. How can you protect your little one or your grandma from this? Is a mask enough? Wes Streeting said, I'm not ruling out masks on a compulsory basis the other day. That's a bit of scaremongering, is it? Does a mask work like COVID? Does it do anything?
Well, I think the initial advice with COVID, which was masks don't do anything, came from people's observations with flu. However, and like I said to you, if you've got proper flu, you ain't going to be going out and about to the supermarket.
No.
However, to begin with, for maybe a couple of days, you might feel the sniffles and a bit unwell. Wearing a mask is not really any different from the old cat it, bin it, kill it advice that we used to have. But it's not going to protect you from getting sick. It might protect you from passing it on to other people. The best way, of course, of preventing infection is to get the vaccine. And people over 65 get the vaccine free on the NHS. People with certain conditions like diabetes or perhaps renal impairment, kidney impairment, or so lots of other conditions as well, qualify for a free flu vaccine regardless of their age, as do pregnant women. Kids, primary school age kids, get a flu vaccine, which is sprayed up their nose.
Right.
That's all done with the objective of stopping them spreading the virus to adults, because generally speaking, and it is a generalization, kids don't get flu as severely as adults do, but we do know that they're quite a good engine of spread. The numbers of infections in our sort of late autumn, early winter only really start to pick up when the schools are in.
Can I ask you one final question? Do you support the resident doctors' strike?
I think that the doctors have had a very high pay rise, which the rest of us are paying for.
Fair play. What an answer that is. And thank you for being as articulate on that sensitive political issue as you were on the medical stuff that we've asked before. It's a great pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you very much indeed. To microbiologist Simon Clark. Showbiz time next. I'm going to use my jazz hands. I don't normally do this. If you're watching on TV, you can see what I'm doing. You're lucky that if you're listening to the radio, you're not seeing me doing my Al Jolson thing at the moment. So keep listening to the radio is all I say. Now, we're going to talk to Ethan Sills in just a moment about the Oscars. Apparently the Oscars will move to YouTube. What does this say about the state of television? And more than that, what does it say about Hollywood and American soft power? Hey? I'm going to have a real pop at this. I think the Oscars is a load of rubbish. It's past its sell-by date. Not even Netflix can keep it going. What do you think? 03444991000. Will Ethan Sills agree or disagree with that comment? You'll find out only if you stay tuned to Talk.
I was sat in the tent and he was showing me through photos of his phone, scrolling through. This was barbaric, horrific stuff. Blokes going through walls in vehicles and then jumping out and shooting everyone. His WhatsApp picture was him with a mask on, with a gun like that.
You're in a tent with this guy?
I'm in a tent with this guy, and actually he's just showing me this stuff. I'm just thinking, this is not the kind of bloke you want to be coming to the UK.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
So the revelation is that the Oscars are going to move to YouTube. What does this say about the state of TV? What does it say about the state of Hollywood? Go woke, go broke. Do you remember it was what the 40-something female newsreader used to get? They used to doll up in their dresses, right? And they used to go to Hollywood onto the red carpet and go, Tom Hanks, a word for Good Morning Britain, right? And it was pathetic, wasn't it? And an example of how ordinary the Oscars is now is the Golden Globes, always remembered for the job that Ricky Gervais did in eviscerating the Oscars. And so American soft power with Hollywood is fast disappearing. We will permanently have the Great American Songbook, all the great musicals of the 30s and 40s and 50s. The golden age of Hollywood will always remain. But Hollywood is done not in the same way now, and Netflix confuses it even further. And I would say that what has replaced American soft power is, wait for it, British soft power. The Premier League is much, much bigger around the world than Hollywood has been for 20 or 30 years. So those are my contentions now. I've been saving this opinion up for a while, ready to talk to entertainment journalist and Talk colleague, Ethan Sills. Ethan, hello.
Evening.
Evening, Ethan. What do you think to all that?
I mean, I think that the big move with going to YouTube is sort of the way for the Oscars to try and get back its relevancy. I mean,
right,
been...
with little short clips.
No, it's still going to be the full ceremony, but it's been kind of languishing, stuck on traditional broadcast TV,
right?
You know, in these deals with ABC for the last few decades, and that was the big move, you know, in the 90s and early 2000s when it was still this big thing. I think the most watched ceremony was 1997 when Titanic was the big movie, and there was something like 57 million people watching it.
Wow.
But that number, in the same way that broadcast TV has fallen in the last few years, that's gone down to, I think it was 18 million for the ceremony this year, which still makes it the most watched live event behind the Super Bowl. But you know, pales.
This is all American figures, though, isn't it?
Yes. But the thing with moving to YouTube is that YouTube is actually the biggest streaming service in the world now. You know, there are so many more people, particularly younger people, that are just watching YouTube every day rather than watching the BBC or watching Channel 4 or ITV or anything like that. And so going to YouTube is really the move to ensure that people are going to keep watching the Oscars, and it might actually get back that relevancy.
Might get back its relevancy to a new demographic. Is it still on NBC, wherever it is? Is it going to be on both terrestrial and YouTube?
It's on ABC until 2028, but then it's gone. It's going to be fully on YouTube.
Really? Wow.
So
do you not think someone will go and buy it in for a couple of quid? A surprise upstart like Fox or something?
Well, the thing is that it cost a lot of money, though. I think they're paying somewhere in the 9-figure mark, from what I've read, to get these every year, because there's a bunch of, they get the red carpets, they get all the other sort of satellite ceremonies that come with this. So it's still a big deal. They can still get that money because, as I just said before, like, it's still watched by millions of people around the world. It just isn't the sort of cultural icon that it once was. But it's still the biggest of all these award shows.
Sure.
So
I mean, every other awards ceremony in the world is based on the Oscars.
Oh, completely. And I mean, ABC sort of has put their bet in for the Grammys being the big thing. But I don't know if you've watched the Grammys recently, but it's the most boring ceremony in the world.
Yeah, it's all boring, isn't it? I love the way Ricky Gervais says, you know, come up the stage, say thank you to your God, and FO, he says. I think I can just about say that.
You don't have to comply with those same standards anymore, hopefully. You can probably have a bit more fun with it.
Yeah, I hope Ricky comes back and does the Golden Globes, because it's an absolute mind-bender. It's so funny. Tell you what will make it really good. Can we have Chris Rock punching Will Smith back? What a great way to open up the 2026 Oscars. I mean, that's all I remember about it the last few years.
Well, I was covering those Oscars, and when the slap happened, I was just so shaken. I had to turn to all my colleagues and be like, I think something interesting has actually happened at the Oscars.
You're not wrong, Ethan.
No one could believe that was a real moment.
It was real, wasn't it?
And I think they need to try and recapture that to some degree.
You're not wrong. I don't think they'll ever be able to get to that height. Ethan, thank you very much. Ethan Sills there talking about the Oscars eventually moving to YouTube full-time from ABC terrestrial TV. That is like an amazing turn in our society. The tipping point between digital media and traditional media might just be moving on at that point. 03444991000. Misogyny is what you wanted to talk about. Tracy in Wiltshire's with us. Tracy.
Yeah. Hi.
Hi, Tracy.
Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you. Tell me all about it. Now, you are a teaching assistant, so you've got skin in the game on this one.
Yeah, so I've been training for quite a few months now to be a teaching assistant, and we deal a lot with this kind of thing. And misogyny is something that I feel quite strongly about, because I don't know, that I have a very Catholic upbringing,
right?
So it's quite different. But the kids nowadays, they have to have something that they can come to school with. And I'm not saying teachers have to do this, because teachers don't. It shouldn't be the teachers that do this. It should be the parents. They're the ones that are going to bring these kids up.
Yes, this is very interesting. So basically what you're saying is that your Catholic upbringing is quite removed from the prevailing secular culture of orthodoxy. And a lot of people from religious backgrounds feel that. And perhaps school is the place for us to detach our children from the worst excesses of secularity. What do you think to that?
Well, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Maybe it's a difference between, like, from what you're brought up with at home.
Yes.
So if you're brought up in a home that tells you that you can treat a woman differently, then okay, that I understand that, and I get it. But how do we teach children at the age of 11 years old, for God's sake, like, how do we teach them to treat women differently?
I know, and I know this.
What a woman is.
I absolutely know this. I know exactly what you're talking, Tracy, because sometimes when I talk to my kids who are very young, they're, 10 and 9 years old, if I try and explain something which is quite complicated from the adult world, really I see them glaze over. I see them not understanding. And I think, right, they're not ready for this. And I say, do you understand, darling? And they just nod in that way that they haven't a clue, which makes me think twice about that discussion. So, this misogyny thing is difficult, isn't it? How can you teach a kid this?
That really worries me, because trying to get that conversation across to a young child who hasn't even gone through puberty yet, it's like, how do you get that conversation across?
Yeah. Tracy, absolutely.
Really,
so,
one of the other persons that called, they were saying that mums can't do a great job. Seriously?
Yeah,
I think
mums and dads, I mean, really the bedrock of society. Absolutely. Now, as a teaching assistant, what were you trained in on this?
How to deal with children in classrooms. Oh, God, I did write it down. Hang on. I know, it's terrible, isn't it? I've literally just come out of hospital yesterday.
Oh, I see. OK. I know what it is to come out of hospital. You're discombobulated for quite some time. I had a couple of stretches in hospital about 15 years ago. I had a week there and then I had 2 weeks there. And I lost my actual fitness. I got out of breath walking up a hill in a way that I hadn't done before. And also mentally, I was not straight. I felt exhausted. And, when you're kind of looked after and fed all the time, you kind of lose your urgency, don't you? I understand exactly that, Tracy. So I want to say thank you and well done for phoning so soon after coming out of hospital.
No, it just made me that I broke down a few notes because I wanted to really get my point across.
Please do. Tracy, take your time. Tell me.
Okay, so we've got Frank, who said that women would like to be treated like women. Yes, we would. And what's wrong with that? I would love to go back to, I don't know, I'm not old enough to know it, but the 50s, where you go back and actually be enjoyed being treated like a woman. Have a door open for you.
Absolutely. As a man who is a little bit older these days, I kind of ignore the modern day conventions. If I want to keep the door open for a lady, I will. If I want to talk more gently to a lady without being accused of sexism, I will.
Yeah.
Because I want to. I want to relate to a female in a different way to a geezer.
What's wrong with that?
It's nice, isn't it? It's actually a pleasant way of living one's life, isn't it?
I don't understand that yes, I'm a woman. Totally 100%. Nothing else, but why are we fighting against this?
Yeah, I do. I don't like the social engineering because basically it's unavoidable. It's men and women are different.
I know it. Yeah,
and we need to celebrate each other. So these ideas of equality, look, it's important, equality of opportunity and all that stuff. But when you push the envelope further and you try and sort of institute unnatural things, or you accuse boys of misogyny that they may not be guilty of.
This is my worry.
Yeah.
boys into this when they're not doing that.
They're not doing it, are they? Not these
No.
kids. Yeah.
No.
Have you written anything else down that we need to know?
How do we get this? Frank women like.
Done Frank. Yeah, you've done Frank.
Yeah. Okay. I had the flu jab.
Oh yeah, tell us.
And I ended up in hospital, so that was crap.
Did it make you feel a bit schwach for a few days?
Yeah, it was a little bit horrible for a couple of days, but it was fine. But now it's like totally bad. So
okay, Tracy, I wish you better and keep being strong, and thank you for being so brave to come on the TV and the radio so quickly after coming out of hospital. I do know what it's like to be a bit discombobulated after coming out. So Tracy, thank you very much. Thanks for writing down all the notes and being a very quality editor, producer of the show. Right, 03444991000, short break, and then we're going to go to Lincolnshire and talk to Mark.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Another 23 minutes and 52 seconds of the show to go before I then hand over to the news desk for an update on the world news, views and interviews. And then after that, it's, well, anything could happen because there'll be Andre and Ash will come in shortly before the show begins to tell us what's... Andre, hang on. Quite extraordinary. We've got some news here, Evelyn. What's the news? Andre is sick. Well, we know that. No, Andre is ill. Okay. Oh dear. Andre, look, there's a bit of an illness. Oh dear, there's a bit of an illness going round. I mean, we had Petri off, we've had Samara off, and Chuck's doing some sound effects which aren't actually that helpful for me through the talkback. So Andre's not very well. So it's going to be that double act of Ash and Phil Dave. I like Phil's suit, don't you? I like Phil's suit. He's got a hanky out the top of it. I always think the suit's lovely. He looks like those doctors out of Laurel and Hardy, doesn't he? So Phil's in with Ash. Coming up. Yes, all right, Chuck. Thank you for that. In about 22 minutes, so do stay tuned. Every reason to stay tuned. But we are talking about masculinity, and I hate the word toxic. Keir Starmer used it today. Toxic masculinity, my bum. I hate it. The idea of outlawing men from being men. The idea that we've got to put our kind of masculinity on kind of dip, right? It's annoying, isn't it? It's not right. Mark in Lincolnshire. Hello, Mark.
Hello, Johnny. You all right?
Yes, I'm good, thanks, mate. Merry Christmas. How are you?
Merry Christmas to you too.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm not so bad. Yeah, I've got a slightly different angle on all this stuff, but then again, that's just me.
We need a new angle.
The toxic masculinity thing is, I think it's kind of like one of these kind of false flag things, you know.
Right.
I don't think there's much in it, really. I mean, if we're actually going to go ahead with this kind of thing and re-educate some kids, then that sounds an awful lot like re-education centres, you know, the kind of things you have in China.
Yes, exactly. Re-education. So blatant, isn't it?
Well, absolutely. It's just furthering the effeminization of young boys. Basically, they don't want men anymore. They particularly don't want white men, which is what you see play out in the media. You know, if you watch your TV shows and all the rest of it, you see it throughout there. You see it throughout the advertisements now. This is the central message that keeps coming through all the time. But this notion of toxic masculinity, well, the other angle that I look at this from, if you look at earlier this week, where they're talking about their absolute bloodlust in manufacturing a war with Russia, they're not going to care too much about toxic masculinity when they want to send your sons off to get killed.
Yeah.
They won't. In fact, they'll probably mandate toxic masculinity then.
Of course they will.
If you see what I mean, it's absolute nonsense. You know, they are yet again saying, you know, there's a problem, you know, for young women and women in general and all the rest of it, with all these, you know, sex assaults, you know, sexual assaults and, you know, misogyny and all this kind of stuff. But they always forget the elephant in the room. That's the big one. You know, and the reality is, since 2000, when mass migration started, sexual assaults, for example, have gone up 800%. 800%. Now, there has to be, you don't have to be a genius to work out that there might be some kind of correlation there.
Yeah.
Between one and the other.
Yeah.
You know, so I know.
We've seen the consensus of our country changed, for sure. And that might be through, you know, left-wing government intervention and educational re-education, like you said, in China. But it's also to do with the importation of different cultures here, changing the kind of consensus of the country too. We have seen it. Can't argue with it.
You mentioned earlier, Johnny, about the Magna Carta and all this.
Yes.
And accepting other people, you know, other cultures and all.
In terms of freedom, yeah.
Individual freedoms. The thing that you're forgetting about that, Johnny, is the Magna Carta was written for the English. It was written for a Christian people.
Yes, you're right. A more monocultural people.
It was designed for people who had a basic understanding that certain things were right and certain things were wrong.
Yes.
And the problem is, you bring all these other cultures in, they don't necessarily have those principles.
No, they don't agree with them. That's the kind of worst thing.
So you have to start to question, well, do we offer them then the same freedom to practice what they wish to do that we have?
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying?
I know, but that's where we have a bit of a problem, because if they don't mean any harm or they're not causing trouble, right, that is kind of what is the basis of our community concepts here. So people can do what they want as long as they don't harm anyone else in the process, right? That's an English kind of idea, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, like you say, I mean, well, like I was saying, you know, it's all based on an English idea.
Yes.
You know, at the end of the day.
Yes.
And we have our cultural norms and we have our culture and everything else. And you're trying to wedge into all of that, you know, other cultures that are vastly different.
Yeah.
You know, Islamic culture is completely different to ours. You know, there's a lot of cultures from Africa that are completely different to ours. You know, you can't, it's like the whole notion of multiculturalism in itself anyway. It always eventually, like it has here, like it has throughout Europe, it always turns into more of a sewage tank than multiculturalism, you know, a melting pot, as they like to call it. You know, diversity isn't your strength. It never has been.
No.
You know, people will always gravitate towards their own people. We see that in our country. That's why we have so many people that have come over that don't speak English.
Yes.
For example.
Okay.
You know, then you're expecting them to somehow, you know, have any understanding of what misogyny is.
Yeah.
You know, to these people, they're not interested
No, we do have an integration problem. Mark, thank you very much. Just before we go to the break, a few texts have come in. Thank you for these. Johnny, thank you. Good show. Thank you very much, Anne from Archway in London, for listening. At the root of conflicting values is mine and others. Pre-Roman, pre-Christian genes are woman-ruled. New beliefs are not, says Anne with that most interesting archaeological analysis. Janice in Staffordshire says, flu, you'll either get it or you won't. Stay in bed, drink water, take paracetamol, end of. OK, thank you for that. And Lucy says, I remember Magic Roundabout. We all love Magic Roundabout. Could you give us a rendition of the tune, please? As we take a short break, I might do it here. Take a break, leave me off air. Take me off air. Mark, please.
I was sat in the tent and he was showing me through photos of his phone, scrolling through. This was barbaric, horrific stuff. Blokes going through walls in vehicles and then jumping out and shooting everyone. You know, his WhatsApp picture was him with a mask on, with a gun like that.
You're in a tent with this guy?
I'm in a tent with this guy, and actually he's just showing me this stuff. I'm just thinking, this is not the kind of bloke you want to be coming to the UK.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Oh, yes, Merry Christmas to you. Merry Christmas, everyone. It'll be this time next week, the big day. Andrew in Islington wants to talk about misogyny and the other thing. Hello, Andrew. Welcome to the show.
Hello, Johnny. Nice surprise to hear you tonight on the
Oh, thank you, mate. It's nice to be here. Nice to talk to you.
Some good contributors tonight as well.
Hasn't it been great? Really, really intelligent calls. Lots of great guests.
I just want to bring up the misogyny classes because not a lot of people know the word misandry, so it's worth just explaining what it is. Now, misogyny is the contempt for women and an ingrained prejudice against women. And misandry is the same, but directed
against
at men.
men.
So it's contempt for men and an ingrained prejudice against them. Now, when Jess Phillips announced this afternoon, it just got me thinking straight away. I was thinking that the actual fact she's mentioning misogyny classes without mentioning misandry classes at the same time is misandry in itself. I mean, there's no balance there.
No, that's right. It's all about and that humdinger of a word, toxic, which is like the thing you put on the beginning, the prefix to all things male now these days.
Yeah, exactly.
It's annoying, isn't it? Very annoying.
Extremely annoying. It's a buzzword now, misogyny. It's one of those words that's used willy-nilly, completely out of context as well. It's just one of those words. But misandry is one that needs to be brought up more and more because, I don't know if you know, but male suicide is around 75% more than that of women.
Yes, it is.
And I don't think it's enough to just say, oh, that's because men don't talk about their feelings. I think over the past 20 years, more and more men do talk about their feelings. And I deal with men and their problems all the time as well in some of the work I do. So I mean, this kind of talk about misogyny classes is just having another attack on men, and young men in particular.
Yes.
And they're going to retreat more and more. And I would expect suicide is probably going to increase amongst men as well as a result. Because it's almost like they've got nowhere to go. They're pushed into a corner.
Yes.
And young men are being told you're not good people. You're born into this. You're born into misogyny. You're born to have.
It's like the original sin, isn't it?
The original sin, exactly.
You know, and you've got to be on dip. If you're a bloke, not on beam, you've got to be on dip. Watch your P's and Q's. You know, when you chat up a woman, be careful because she might bite.
Well, exactly.
Right?
I happen to be gay, Johnny. So,
right.
You know, it doesn't necessarily apply to me in that way. But I'm still a male. I'm masculine. I'm a man.
Yes.
And the thing is, you hear a lot about toxic masculinity, but you don't hear about toxic femininity. And let me tell you, there's a lot of that around.
Yeah, there's a bit of that, isn't there? You know.
But it's kind of the unspoken word,
yes.
just like misandry is as well.
Yes.
And it really, really makes me increasingly angry when I see this in society. And somebody also mentioned earlier about certain cultures and religions where misandry, and in particularly, I've got quite a few Muslim friends, but within their religion and their culture, it's almost like misogyny is part of it. It's kind of accepted. It's
right.
Well, yes, because women are not equal. They don't have women's equal rights in the same that we do in Western culture. And you know, this worries me just to the future going forward because with Jess Phillips, you could argue that a lot of her constituents happen to be Muslim, and she is a woman MP in a Muslim in a mainly Muslim constituency in Birmingham, and she seems to be kind of fighting it on both fronts. It's almost like I'm standing up for being a woman, but at the same time, she does seem to be appeasing a lot of her constituents who happen to be Muslim at the same time.
Yes, she does, and equally, she wasn't there for the murdered and raped women of Nova, the massacre of young women and men indeed at the Nova Pop Festival. We're just over the border from Gaza. She's been not very quick in talking about those particular people who suffered at the hands of those evil, nasty, murderous terrorists. 03444991000. Just 8 minutes and 22 seconds left of the show, so it's time for me to wheel in. Oh, all right, Bubba, it's Ash.
All right, Bubba, all right,
yeah.
The Brother Gould.
The Brother Gould.
So, yeah, I mean, we know what's going on, Jess Phillips. The cover-up continues. Oh, it's the white kid. So while you're looking at that, don't look at the actual real problem that we know we all have in this
She's
country.
lucky to be the MP. She nearly lost.
Well, that's why she's placating it. She's 600 votes, I think she won by, and so she's scared. And so her morals go out the window. Just got to look after your own job. Never mind throwing all those working-class women under the bus. Terrible. I mean, the biggest crime in British history, and they still try and cover it up. And as they do with it,
talking about the grooming gangs.
Yeah, well, the rape gangs, you know, everything. And then they cover up every other aspect. You know, this attack on Bondi Beach, they immediately focus on take your eye off the ball of this and that. You know what I mean? It's all about trying to cover up. But at the end of the day, the white working class are the majority in this country, and you can see how the youth are, you know, how you'd expect them to react, because they've been they've definitely been shoved to the bottom, and it's okay to be racist to the working class white kid, and you know, they've had enough basically. So eventually the political wheels will turn, and it'll turn around, won't it? As always happens in the cycles.
Let's see what happens at the next election, whenever that's called, including the local ones, which seem to be cancelled for now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, it's the obvious signs of a dictatorship. Cancel elections, get rid of the jury system, arrest your political enemies, put them in prison. I mean, that's the Stalinist handbook, the Starmerist handbook. We got Claire Muldoon on. She's your mate, isn't she?
She's my mate, Claire.
About toxic 11-year-old anti-Muslim.
I know she'll have a lot to say on this.
Well, it's the psyops, isn't it? We saw with that Netflix programme, which sort of had government money behind it. It's also, you know, soaps get paid certain money from certain quangos to cover this, you know, like a trans issue or certain other issues. They actually get money for it. That's why you see all these.
Do you remember at the end of EastEnders, they said, and if you've had problems related to the storyline, do contact this, that, and the other. It's got a bit more sophisticated now, hasn't it?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. They put a message in, and you go. I remember even Starmer said that fantastic documentary about that adolescence. Called it a documentary. I don't think, and they tried to be clever by filming it in one shot. Well, that's like what I could do on a video recorder. The editing is the art. Alex Dyke's coming in. He's the poor man's Mike Reid. He used to be BBC radio presenter of the local radio, but Mike Reid. And he's, do you know what? He works with Mum's old friend, Fred Dinage.
Right.
Fred Dinage was the official ghostwriter for the Cray Twins, so you better not say anything bad about him.
Shut it.
And he's doing a sort of question and answer going around theatres. He was in Sutton Coldfield, of course, where he's from, and knew our mum in primary school.
Yeah.
And so Alex is producing that with Fred Dinage, but he comes in to talk about news. And we've got Finn Adams, who's a teacher, talking about 11-year-old boys anti-misogyny training again.
Yeah.
By the way, I'm doing it with Dave tonight, Phil Dave, because Andre's sick as a pig. I don't know.
Is that generally speaking, or is it just
I mean,
tonight?
generally he is, but he must be really sick, because he's sick anyway, but he comes in. But yeah, I think he's got the Nora's virus.
Have you?
Don't tell Nora.
No. Have you worked with Phil before as a double act?
No, but he's sat here a lot of times. But yeah, this is it. It's Ash and Dave.
Ash and
like
Dave.
Chaz and Dave, but Ash and Dave. And Pete Barnes, of course.
Pete Barnes, you'll get good value out of Pete. It's every reason to stay tuned. That's a really, really good. Now look, now we've been both reeling from the Bondi Beach massacre, which has, on one level, really torn a strip out of Hanukkah as one of the loveliest festivals of the Jewish calendar every year. But it's also torn a strip off the image of Bondi, which before last week was where blonde, 6-foot-tall, beautiful Australians like Olivia Newton-John had babbies and tinnies, and it was like Sunset Boulevard, it was like Miami Beach, it was a place of paradise. And now it's been recast as a place of Islamic terror. The West needs to wake up and see that their nations, their concepts of living everywhere is being trashed in a New York minute. And there's New York as a mention as well. New York's being trashed too.
Yeah. And
what do we do? How do we save the West?
Look, I mean, today...
How do we save the West?
Mark Rowley now says, well, we've got to ban Intifada everywhere, because today the context has changed. Well, it hasn't changed. It's Intifada everywhere, which caused these attacks, because it enabled them. Because they go, oh, look, they're on our side. They don't mind if we do this sort of thing. And so it's enabled them. What will that... Will they arrest... what's her name? Sultana?
Oh, I doubt it.
Because she actually started chanting it, although her face was covered up. She was with a group chanting it after it was banned.
Do you think they will?
Probably not. And she was outside that prison, you know, with the hunger strikers. So it's not good, and they just try and say, yes, we're all... diversity is our strength. They keep going on with the narrative, and eventually...
Does anyone believe that anymore?
No, but they just don't care, do they? You just say the words, it's Orwellian, and then, you know, you never see them out and about, do they?
They just keep saying it, don't they? They
just keep saying it, and, you know, if you say it enough, people believe you, but... you know, unbelievable. And also there was that NGO Monitor story that's come out about them. All the NGOs in Gaza were basically working hand in glove with Hamas because they had to.
Yeah.
Some of them did it voluntarily anyway, but even if you didn't, they're like the Stasi. They keep records on everyone and they put their people in. They wouldn't let them see certain of their atrocities. And yeah, all control, but that's the world we're finding ourselves in. But hopefully, with this Intifada Everywhere banned, is From the River to the Sea going to be banned?
Oh yeah, of course it will. It has to be. It's
but will it be enforced like this?
It's the same thing, and also I saw police laying off death to the IDF, which is effectively the last line of defence against a massacre of the entire state of Israel. That is the same as Intifada.
And they're trying to time out that singer who did it. He's got 6 months to be charged, and it's coming up to that time, and they'll try and do it out of time. You know, the guy who did the death.
Bob
Villain. Amazing. Him.
Sounds like an Aston Villa
mascot.
What's
his name? Peter Watson Atkins or something. He's a posh boy from Bristol.
Pascal Robinson Foster.
When he's on stage, he talks like that, and then he goes, "Yes, well, what I was saying in that piece."
That's like Shaggy, right?
Yeah.
I heard Shaggy. You know, Shaggy's got that sort of Jamaican thing going on in his rap, and then when he's got like this really cool LA accent when he talks normally.
Yeah, my mate was on honeymoon in New Zealand, and Shaggy was in the jacuzzi, you know, with some girl, and he walked out and left the wet towel there, and he said, "Oh, just because my mate was thinking, just because you're Shaggy, you think you can leave the towel there," and then a minute later.